Chase throws in the flat. Pass is complete to Clayton. First down and then some. Goodbye, Mark Clayton. To the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Incredible.
This is 365 Sports.
Motion by Oliver. Bucky will go the other way on the option. Pulls it down. Touchdown, Aggies.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
McNabb, straight back. Left side, he's all alone. It's a touchdown. Conrad. A defensive breakdown, and Conrad was all alone. He goes into the end zone for the second touchdown. Nobody was over there.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Maurice Claret is the tailback, or the single back. He's got it. He's got a touchdown.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Hello, end zone. Won't catch it. LaMichael James, and ladies and gentlemen, right now, this young man is a Heisman Trophy candidate.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
It's been a busy week for Smokey. High School Football Hall of Fame induction on Saturday, and tonight is the annual Academic All-Stars banquet, which means he is of a one-track mind today. We will hear from him later on in the show when we have Rob Bolton on to do our PGA Championship draft. But that is all that you will see of Smokey today because he's getting ready for the banquet. So been a busy, crazy week. And I asked him one year, like, why can't you just do the show until like 5 o'clock and then go over? And then I remembered how he is on this day. And it is scatterbrained, to say the least.
Yeah. I think he's probably got a lot on his plate.
Yeah.
And, doesn't really have a couple hours to take out and focus on, whatever hell is breaking loose in college football or anywhere else for that matter. So, yeah, he's out today, and we'll be back tomorrow. And I think maybe, just maybe, we'll be over this, like, weird busy stretch we've had of changing companies and having banquets and Hall of Fame ceremonies. And, like, I don't know. It's just been, I don't know about how you guys feel. It's just been like a wild kind of
and then
3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, and then there's going to be a point in the summer, which we'll discuss when we know a date, that's probably going to be really weird because of things that we have. All good things going on here, but we don't know where we'll be doing the show certain days probably in the summer.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we just got a lot going on and a lot behind the scenes going on. So add in some banquets and things to attend to like that, and it's just kind of a crazy time period. But that's cool because it'll get us. I don't know, when it gets busy, it goes by faster, right?
Yeah.
So that'll get us to football season quicker, I suppose.
Do you think this is what Hollywood people feel like in award season?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know. I think probably people who have kids, how they feel like, I'd imagine that for those of us who don't, where it's just nonstop. There's always feels like there's something going on or somewhere to be and things like that. I'd imagine that's probably similar in some ways. But no, it's a good busy. We'll put it that way. And yeah, he's out, but we got plenty to talk about, and we got these next 3 hours handled. So. Yeah,
absolutely. So there is some news in the CFP world. Jim Phillips at the ACC meetings, which have wrapped up today, on the format proposed by the Big Ten and SEC. I remain steadfast about fairness and the system and access. Out of respect for my colleagues, I want to hold off on commenting about AQs and specific models. Okay, that's one way to go. Craig, I just kind of wish that Yormark and Phillips would just say, we don't want AQs. Like, we don't think it's relevant or necessary and all that. I guess that's what I would want to do, and I don't have these jobs for a reason, but I would maybe be a little bit more frank about it.
Yeah, I mean, talking about it being busy, I mean, there's a lot of meetings going on right now in college sports, and you're seeing a lot of reporters running around at these meetings and coming up with their takeaways and stories. And Ross Dellinger from Yahoo was one of those. He had a write-up on just all of the talk surrounding the playoff, and I feel like he's probably written as many times about the playoff being in flux as maybe everything else in his career combined at this point, because he's written about the playoff a lot and the potential changes and the what-ifs of it all. But I feel like that's just what it's continued to be now for quite a while, is this could happen or this might happen or this whatever. And today was a day where I guess there's a little bit more of a straightforward kind of approach where people are clearly, based on his reporting, for the most part, not happy with the whole idea of the AQ model proposed by the SEC and the Big Ten. And we kind of know that, but I think today you just had more people sort of on the record or kind of summing it up to where we are now. And yeah, there's a lot of people unhappy. I know Brett Yormark didn't comment specifically, but he's made it pretty clear that he would like for the Big 12 to have more, of course. Jim Phillips, I think, was quoted, and he made it pretty clear that the ACC wants 3 automatic qualifiers. And I don't know if you're getting, too greedy there, or if that's a way to just get back to, negotiations. And I just know that the ACC feels like they're not getting what they deserve. Didn't really have much from the Big Ten and SEC side of things that we didn't already know. I mean, they want what they want. They've made it clear what they want, and it's very clear that in 2026, I mean, they're pretty much the ones calling the shots, right? So it's this gamble on the part of Yormark and Phillips and anybody else involved of what it's been every time something's been proposed of, do we fight this or do we give in and let it go? And the thing about it now is, like, I think you have to fight it, because the other alternative is if you don't fight it for at least right now, then here soon you're giving away all the power and your voice isn't going to mean nearly as much. And they're going to do what they want to anyway. So this whole time you've kind of been dealing with this gamble of, like, do we play fair with them and then just trust that they play fair with us? Or do we fight and then they threaten to screw us over when they get all of the power? And I think that's the thin line you've been walking if you're Yormark and Phillips. But at this point, like, they're going to do what they're going to do. So you just have to fight it. And they're very clearly not happy with this proposal. And talks continue about, where we eventually end up here. But yeah, it's not one. I mean, there were several coaches on the record saying that they don't like the idea, Mario Cristobal being one of those, the idea of automatic qualifiers. And I don't think anybody outside of the SEC and the Big Ten do. they stand to benefit greatly from it. They stand to get even more money and more of an advantage than they already have, which is pretty gigantic at the moment already. But yeah, there's a lot of ACC coaches. Rhett Lashley was another one of them. He used a basketball example of like the SEC this past year had, 14 teams in the tournament. But if you use the model like they want to use of like history and, things like that to suddenly base it instead of on the field, like the current, but you want to use let's use history, the last 5 years to determine this, or it's like, well, the SEC in basketball wouldn't get what they would be getting now currently. And that was his point was, well, if you base it off of the not current, then it can kind of be out of whack to what actually is current. So, there was some pushback for sure in Ross's article from Lashley, from Cristobal, from Phillips and various others as all of these meetings are going on and they're trying to figure this stuff out. So the back and forth continues in regards to the future of the college football playoff.
Mario Cristobal, granting spots, that makes zero sense. Football has never been about gifting. It's about earning.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I agree.
We all
with
agree
you.
on that. Yeah.
We agree on that. But when you say that we want 3 spots, don't negotiate at that point. I think the Big 12 and ACC need to be stronger together here and be like, no, there's no automatic qualifiers. That's what it needs to be, because
I'd say the one I would say that it would be a conference champion. I think a conference champion should be an automatic qualifier. I'm not saying they should be seeded 1 through 4.
There shouldn't be, and we'll get to that in a second.
Right.
But there shouldn't be.
That's the exception, though.
There shouldn't be there shouldn't be this. At least,
oh, no, there shouldn't be. We get 4 no matter what.
Yeah,
no, I don't think that should be the case for anybody. And I think that's what they're all saying as well. And I think if there was an agreement, if you actually took everybody's voice into consideration, I think where you'd land is in fairness and whatnot, then you'd land if everybody's voice was equal, where conference champions get automatic qualifiers and you probably don't seed them 1 through 4 like you did last year and give them those buys. But they get in the playoff, whereas past that, I don't think anybody should be guaranteed anything whatsoever. And so that's the fight that's going on right now.
And I think that's right. Look, if you have 16 teams, especially if they go to 16, what are you fighting for? You're going to have it. And we've said this over and over and over again. Now, if we ever got the opportunity to interview Kim Jong-Sankey, if we ever got, the opportunity to have Tony Petiti doesn't seem to do these things, but
Sankey would have to allow us at his media days first.
Yeah, he would. Yeah,
to even have that opportunity.
So
but it was too crowded last year.
Yeah, but if they would let us, interview Greg Sankey, the first thing I would ask him is, if you're pushing for automatic qualifiers, what are you as the SEC actually afraid of?
See, you say this a lot, and I understand where you're coming from.
What are you worried about?
But they're not. I don't think they're afraid of anything, Paul. They want what they want. They want as much as they want. They're Smoak. They want all the gold.
But no. But see, there's fear in making those things. You have to guarantee something because you're afraid you might not have it.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the driving force. I think the driving force is greed and power and having all that you want. And I think that
greed is often fueled by fear.
I mean, sure. I mean, sure, but I don't think he's operating on fear. I think, yes, you're right that there's an element of, well, if we don't do this, then, oh, crap, we open the door for the ACC to actually maybe not fall apart because suddenly Florida State wins a natty and they're happy. And so, yeah, there's ulterior motives here outside of just we want as many playoff teams as possible. He doesn't want the ACC to succeed. He'd love for them to die, in my opinion, no matter what he says on record. And look, again, it's not just him. It's Jim Phillips, too. Jim Phillips is just as culpable as Greg Sankey is. So when we talk about this, he is right there alongside Sankey. And they're just doing what their presidents want them to do, mind you, as well. So it's not like it's, the 2 big bads and everybody else is just at their mercy. But I do think, it's probably fear in the way that you fear that if you do allow it to all be equal, then maybe you don't have this inherent advantage that you've built up for yourself over the last 2 decades in particular. I think there's the I don't know if it'd be fear, though. I think it'd be more like concern or worry. But yeah, there's probably that. You don't want to give the Big 12 any legs to maybe take off in a direction.
Maybe I would just say, okay, so say there's a year, maybe 2 in a row where the Big 10 only gets 3, or you guys get 3 in 1 year instead of 4 or 5 if there's 16 teams. What's the matter with that? like I would ask him specifically, what would be so bad about that? If you had some teams that just weren't as good and the other ones caught up to you, what would be so bad about that if you didn't have 4 teams in?
It wouldn't be as much money.
But okay, outside of that answer.
Well, that's the answer.
Yeah, but see, that's the answer he doesn't want to say out loud because that's the PR problem. That's what they have to get to the root of is like, oh, well, we would lose money for a year, but like you're not really losing money. Like you're still making tons of it. You just, 1 year somebody else has more. But your TV deal that you already have that is way ahead of everybody else ensures that if you even got one playoff team in, you'd still be ahead of the game in them. So again, like you are guarding against, minor economic fluctuations.
Or you're politicking and you're setting this up to be for something else.
Yeah.
And that we don't know what that is right now. So yeah, I think that there could very well be a negotiation ongoing. And so you present this and then they come back to the table with their feelings on the matter, and then you respond in kind, and eventually you land in a place where whatever it is that you're truly after is what you end up getting. But the whole time you hold this thread of, well, you need us more than we need you kind of a thing, which I don't know if that's always the case, actually. I kind of feel like at some point somebody needs to call a bluff and see what happens, because it might be funny how much of a house of cards it really all is. But I think there's some concern of allowing any power to trickle over into another place where maybe it does embolden or empower another conference and it does give them a little kick in the pants to where they can make up some of the money differences, or where they can steal some of the spotlight, or where they can go win a championship. Whereas to the way you set it up now, you've basically all but guaranteed that 2 leagues are going to win. Mm-hmm. And look, I know those have been the 2 leagues winning, but the ACC has jumped in there. The Big 12, clearly they're in a much different place than when Texas and Oklahoma were competing for titles, but we've seen TCU, make a run for it. Arizona State was a good story last year, but I think the last thing you want to do is when you've kind of seen them fall to the wayside in comparison to where you've ascended in adding, major names. I don't think you're wanting them to make up any ground in any way, shape, or form, or allow them to be as competitive as you, if at all possible. I think there's something else to it, most likely, that we're not seeing or not understanding just yet, outside of just I want all that I can get and never can have enough and that type of a thing. So, we'll see, because these negotiations, these talks continue. People are clearly not happy about the AQ idea. So what is the next step? I don't think that's what anybody but Sankey and Phillips probably know right now.
Yeah. Okay, so to get into the straight seating, ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips says that straight seating the CFP may be the right thing for us to consider. Commissioners have been discussing moving to that concept starting as soon as the 2025 playoff. The only thing I would say that this is a negotiation about, because straight seating probably makes more sense, is just the money aspect of it, because of the way that if you get that first round bye, even if you haven't won a game, you're already guaranteed more money. And so to go straight seeding, if the top 4 seeds are all SEC and Big Ten, then the ACC, like anybody who would have gotten that in last year's model, won't necessarily get that now unless they go and win that game. So that is, or make it to that game. So that's the concern. But I would think there might be some money compromise on that if they decide to go to straight seeding.
Everybody seems to be on board with this based on what I was reading earlier. It seems like it's probably going to get done and will occur as soon as this year. So
and Brandon Marcello follows up saying that they're all kind of on this. So they're agreeing to. I don't think they're quite there yet, but that's what they're going to do. So
so they're all in agreement on it, and that does seem the way that it will go. And that would obviously be an interesting change, but one I don't think I'm all that fiery about compared to the automatic qualifiers and kind of hoarding as much as you can without having even played a game, which is, the whole backlash against this is just basically rigging it before it starts and then say, well, but, technically all these past years, and again, then you have the example brought on by, Rhett Lashley about the SEC in basketball, so there are going to be years where maybe it fluctuates, but this way you have basically determined that there's no way to really break through past you, because no matter what, you're going to have your block of 4, if not 5 and 6. And so That's going to remain controversial, as we talked about. But this one, seems to be pretty close to becoming a reality that the process will change next season, and you won't have the first-round bias for conference champs.
And look, if the 4 teams that are getting those 4 first-round buys are all 12-1 and 11-1, I'm not going to. I mean, those are you lost one game. You should probably get a first-round bye. I mean, like you're. Based on the schedule, I guess necessarily, because even in these power conferences, you can roll through and wind up with a cupcake schedule. And I think we're going to see that more often than we realize, because you see it, the more it becomes mirroring of the NFL and, free agency and all that. You have teams that you think, every year in the NFL, like, man, this team's a lock. They're so good. They're so deep. Well, maybe they weren't quite as good as you thought they were, coming off of last year, and they caught lightning in a bottle. And then you have a team that's not that good. So, but we'll see. Okay, Garrett, I'm going to do the Nick Saban thing here now because it fits a little bit better. But Nick Saban was just on the Paul Feinbaum show. And when asked about President Trump's commission on college sports, first of all, I don't know a lot about the commission. Secondly, I'm not sure we really need a commission. I think that a lot of people know exactly what the issues are in college football and exactly what we need to do to fix them. I'm not opposed to players making money. I don't want anybody to think that. I just think that the system we are using, the way it's going right now, is not sustainable and probably not in the best interest of student athletes across the board or the game itself. So the guy who's going to potentially head up the commission doesn't think we really need it. And guess what? I think he's right.
Yeah, I think a lot of that was, political, obviously, influenced by just kind of having a show there of we're fixing this and look at this cool commission. And a lot of it was just for show as much as anything else. But, that's an interesting comment. I mean, he's got some other quotes we can get to from that interview, but that one does just kind of make you go, what? Because that was such a big to-do last week. And then for him to say, like, I don't even know if we really need a commission. That's just kind of funny to say, because that just lets you know that this isn't some magic wand that's being put together and that will be waved by Nick Saban and whoever else, Cody Campbell. They're not just going to come in and fix sports right away. I don't think they're even clear on what actually they're doing at this point based on that quote, or even feeling like what they're doing is all that necessary in the form that it's in or way it's presented. So, I don't know what all that means eventually, but that was funny to see him make that comment. Now, I know Greg Sankey also had a comment about it, apparently, as Feinbaum was against these meetings. And he said, I think what's important to remember is that it's a lot of sources say, I deal with reality. There's plenty of commentary about this possible commission. I'm not going to overreact or react to what's reported about commissions. I think there are a lot of wise people who can provide input, which, for as much as we may highlight some of the motives of Greg Sankey to, get 4 automatic qualifiers, whether that's the best interest of the game or not, I do think he's not just all wrong. I think he's a smart guy who does have interesting things to say. And I do think deep down, he ultimately wants what's best for the SEC first and foremost, because that's his job. But I do think there's an element of this man that does want college sports to be the best that it can be. Now, I think people get confused and like, well, that means it's the way that it was when I grew up. And it's like, no, that means the best it can be in the current day and age. And that's not always going to be what people want or like, or sometimes it's going to rub you the wrong way, but that's the way it has to be because we're in 2025. We're not in 1995 anymore. So there's no going back to the way that it was, but how can we make what it is the best that it can be? And I think in some ways he's trying to do that. I don't think he is with automatic qualifiers or Jim Phillips for that matter. But again, what does that actually maybe put on the table to try and get, what's that being thrown out to kind of get a reaction towards or set up for something else? Like with these guys, you see how this whole house of cards has been built up, but all the moves that these guys have made, and it's been very calculated. And these aren't just on a whim types of decisions. Like this has been very planned out. Their vision of college athletics in the future and their role in it. So what he says is interesting and usually, smart to look into. So the commission comment is very interesting. And that part about not overreacting on the commission and wise people having input, I do agree with him. I don't think it's smart to overreact to just a couple names being announced to a thing that we don't even know what it's doing just yet. It's analyzing problems.
Or if it will do anything.
So yeah, I'm not overreacting to that. And I do agree with him as well that there are a lot of people beyond just the two that we know of, Nick Saban and Cody Campbell, that could be beneficial to this. And I think that could include athletes and should include athletes if this is going to be a legitimate commission, but we'll see where that actually goes.
But and look, I get the feeling that Nick Saban doesn't really, I mean, the president asks you to do something. I mean, you kind of have to go like, yeah, I guess, even if you're, and offer your input. But again, this could wind up going nowhere and more likely will go nowhere. To hear Greg Sankey be like, And the other thing that you have to okay, so here's the thing. The media contracts are signed, okay, with these giant companies who also do political business and lobby in Washington and all that. So let's say the Presidential Commission comes up with what Cody Campbell says is all the conferences make a TV deal together and then split it equally among the Power Four. Okay. So they have to do that. So that means that you have to codify into law something that will void those contracts and then have some sort of legal precedent that says, well, this is not fair competition, which has happened in the past, but it's been a very long time since it's been that. And the way that our government currently works of letting the big boys keep coming together and together and together and together, that would seem to have larger world implications for everything. And then that's why antitrust exemption, CBA, like all these things make more sense, but trying to go and tell Disney, Fox, CBS, Viacom, Paramount, whatever it is, and all these entities, Turner, Warner Brothers, that your deals are now null and void and we're going to redo them all. I also don't think that that's possible in America. I don't think it's possible in today's America. So if you're going to say you're going to split up the media deals and you're going to make all these rules, all that, well, I mean, how can you make the companies do that? I mean, I don't know. So, but yeah. So anyway, let's see. I'm going to have to work some stuff here. Manny Navarro just got back to me. So maybe we might squeeze him in at like 4:25.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's get to the last couple of stories, and then I'll contact Manny here. BYU, new AD, taking the place of Tom Homo, who is our good friend. He was on the show a lot. So, Brian Santiago, get ready, buddy. You have at least, 2 to 3 segments a year with us? Was that what Tom did about?
Yeah, I guess it was something along those lines, yeah.
So, he steps into an athletic department that's humming right now, though. I mean, the basketball's going great. Football's going great. They've got a lot of money coming in. So this is a great job to take. BYU is moving along faster than they probably ever have. So I'd be fired up if I was Brian Santiago, and I'm sure he is, for this job. But he replaces somebody who did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I mean, he has big shoes to fill. Tom Homo was fantastic from all indications, and certainly in his dealings with us, really appreciated him, and hope we still get to talk to him at some point or another in the future. But, this was a hire that was, I guess it garnered a little bit of a mixed reaction, you could say, online, just based on what I saw. There were, as much as, people were thinking this was a good hire and the logical hire and the logical next step for BYU athletics, there was an equal number of people that I saw that were of the opinion this guy was kind of an ass when they had dealt with him, and that he was like this way or that way, and that they weren't really all that thrilled by this hire. And so there was a mixed reaction, like I said, to this when I was going through some of the quotes and comments and different things in different places. And I think he addressed that somewhat in his meeting with some of the media today. He talked about not being the same guy he was 27 years ago. And, that kind of, I think, lets you know that he's heard some of that criticism and some of that feedback, and he's letting it be known that whatever he may have been in the past, whether that was immaturity or just being different because it was just a different time in life, He's not that guy anymore. So, BYU, we'll see. He's the man now. And this is a big job, obviously, at a big, important time for that university where they are humming along. Like you said, NIL money's flowing, wins are flowing. And there's a lot of upside there. A lot of people who think that if they have all their ducks in a row, they can be like the premier school in this conference, which I don't know how much anybody's really going to be separated from all of the others. I think it's still going to remain a pretty equal league across the board. But can somebody or a couple schools kind of get a little bit of that advantage, perhaps? And if so, then you think that they'd be one of them, just because of the way they're set up. They're very unique, and they are flush with cash and flush with passion and backing as far as attendance and just all the categories. They check a lot of the boxes. So and if he's who they think he is when they obviously made the decision to hire him, then the sky's the limit for BYU, and you just hope he does as good of a job as Tom Holmoe. But it was interesting to see him kind of take on that mixed reaction and just say, hey, man, I'm not that guy that maybe you knew back then. And I'll take his word on that, and BYU fans will see for themselves over the coming months and years. Well,
look, he's got to step into a situation. I mean, like he's got to absolutely hit the ground running. Like the runway he's been given is pretty rare in athletic changeovers, especially in the modern era of college sports where everything's really hard. He's got a bunch of fans that have clearly bought in, like, to what's going on. I mean, when you're paying AJ DeBonso what they're paying him for 1 year, like, you've got some interest in your program that other people would kill for.
Yeah, they just need to get over the NIL thing and stop being so sensitive about that based on just some of the reaction that I've seen. And that's not all of BYU fans, but just that whole to-do with Rob Wright. Like, and then that got so milked for clicks. Like, I mean, the drama got stretched out because BYU fans reacted to it. So it was like, let's just keep talking about it, right? And so that dragged it probably a lot longer than it should have. And really, it shouldn't have been anything that, I mean, other than, the typical fist fight of you took our guy. I mean, yeah, it turned into a conversation about money, but I don't think that's something that you shy away from. Be like, yeah, we got money. Like, lean into it. Like, yeah, hey, you took a guy from the school that just 6 months earlier was saying we pay players, right? So they can't be shocked about it when somebody else decides to do the same thing they were just bragging about doing. That's why, from a Baylor standpoint, it's like, yeah, you're pissed about it, and yeah, you feel a little bit screwed over, but it's part of the deal. And then for BYU, you should be thrilled that you got a great player that adds to another great player that you're bringing in and maybe leads to a great roster that goes and does great things at tournaments. You're just trying to be the best that you can be. So, yeah, I thought there's a little bit too much sensitivity about that, but that's everybody in NIL world still in college sports. Like, that's why sometimes we got to say, if we're talking about, a player in the SEC or the Big 12 or wherever, it's like everybody needs to stop being scared of talking about NIL and stop being worried that people are going to say that you pay a lot of money for guys. Like, Miami leaned into it. They're not sitting there going like, why do you keep accusing us? Because they know it. It's true. So what? It doesn't matter. It's legal. Who cares?
And that's
nothing to be ashamed of.
They had to hide it for so long.
Right.
And I do I mean, listen, the Nevin Shapiro thing was bad, but most of it was what everybody else is doing. And I do think that there were a lot of Miami boosters back in the day were like, well, what's so bad about this?
Yeah, and I think
we're not paying them to do contract hits. We're paying them to play football. Like, so what? Like,
Yeah, I think some of the sensitivity comes from just the idea that you want it to be about, well, it's about our culture and it's about our religion and it's about our family and it's about our, this and that. And it is all still can be those things. And that's part of the decision making as well. But yeah, money matters. And so I say that mostly because that's the situation he's walking into where they do seem to have some powerful backing. It's paid off in great ways for them over the last year. And it seems like it's only revving up and going higher potentially moving forward if they continue to, have success and build off of what's been established already. So, yeah, he's got a very important job coming up at a crucial time for BYU, at a crucial time in college athletics, and we'll see what he can do with it.
Yeah. By the way, Manny Navarro will join us at 4:20. Got that confirmed. So we'll back as Manny Navarro back-to-back here on the show. For some Big 12 Baylor news, wide receiver Ashton Hawkins, who had initially gotten an extra year because of the JUCO filing, has now had that taken away from him. He had played 4 years outside of that. So Craig, I remember this, and you said this earlier when we were talking about it. You were confused when he got this extra year because, unlike Diego Pavia, Diego Pavia has only played a couple years. He hasn't played 4 years. Ashton Hawkins has played 4 years at the NCAA level. So that's where it was like, well, I mean, like that still falls in his redshirt year. Like he would have that anywhere else. So Ashton Hawkins will not be part of the Bears this year, it looks, unless he files suit. But I guess we'll see what happens with him down the line. It's a bummer for Baylor. They did sign a wide receiver out of the portal yesterday, so I'm sure that those two things are not unrelated. But no Ashton Hawkins, and that's a big loss because he was the most reliable wide receiver target for them last year.
No, he was not. Josh Cameron was the most reliable receiving target for them last season. But he was up there as well. And I think you remember him, just the bowl game that he had against LSU, the toe tap touchdown that should have counted, honestly. And if it does, then they probably win that game, and that's a huge win. And they're 9-4 and Texas Bowl champs with the win over LSU. And instead, it was negated after official review, which I still just scratch my head over. That was kind of wonky. Nevertheless, he had a big finale in what I thought was going to be his final game, and figured it was going to be his final game, and turns out it will likely be his final game in green and gold. But yeah, he had gotten the waiver, which I did not understand how he could possibly get a waiver, because he had played JUCO ball, then he had played 3 years at Texas State, then he played last year at Baylor. So I'm trying to figure out where is this other year coming from that he's supposed to have. I never understood it, but I just went with it. Like, okay, if the NCAA says he's good to go, then I guess he's good to go. And then now here they are weeks later, and after he's already gone through an entirety of spring ball, and they're breaking for summer, and they're getting geared up for fall, now suddenly he can't play. So I don't know what kind of NFL prospects he really has. He's not a big guy. I don't know that he's so exceptionally fast that he's going to just blow people away like a, Xavier Worthy level speed that it doesn't matter how big you are kind of a thing. I don't know what his NFL future really was, if there was one. But if this holds, took away his opportunity to find out when he should have. Mm-hmm. So you basically led him to believe he could play another year of college ball, which he started to do, and did not try to go pursue the NFL. And now you're telling him, oh, yeah, by the way, we know the draft's already over and all that, and everybody signed their free agents, but, now you can't play college either. It's just a complete flub by the NCAA. That's what it is. It's what it boils down to. It's just a complete flub by the NCAA. And clearly they made a mistake in granting him that year, because it never made sense for him to get that year to begin with, from my understanding. And now they're trying to take it away, but it's like there's some damage that you do by doing that to the young man. Like, you just totally screwed his entire timeline of what he would have been doing otherwise. He would have been at least trying out to get ready for the draft and try to make a roster. And instead he was preparing for this final season. And now you're saying that he can't have that either. So I know Baylor released a statement saying that they still anticipate him being around next year. It was kind of a wonky statement in that you don't really know what it leads to. But they said, we intend for Ashton to be a part of our program this upcoming season, are actively working with the NCAA to explore all eligibility options. We will have no further comment on this matter at this time. He told they told Sikkim 365 last night. So I don't know where this leads, but a massive screw up by the NCAA to not intentionally mislead, but to just unintentionally put him in a position where now he's kind of like just screwed. I mean, he doesn't really have an off-ramp unless he's like now going to try to go scurry and make a team in the NFL for, I mean, how do, it's just it's a crappy position to be in. I almost went ahead and just said it, but I want Emory to have to edit this later, potentially. It's a crappy situation to be in. So for him, it sucks. For Baylor, it sucks because you're also counting on this guy, and you bring Josh Cameron back, and so you bring Ashton Hawkins back, and you feel good about having your top two receivers. But now you take Ashton Hawkins out of the picture, and they don't have their number 2, their number 3, or their number 4, or number 5 wide receivers from last year. So you're banking on Josh Cameron and then Michael Trigg, who's not even healthy right now, so you don't even know exactly what that looks like. And beyond that, you're like, well, we got some young guys, which we've been around college football long enough to know they're not bringing in 5-star freshmen. It's not like Ryan Williams is rolling in. So to sit here and be like, oh, they got the young guys, like we've done this song and dance enough enough to know that, like, most likely those guys don't contribute at a Ashton Hawkins level right away, right? Well, then it's like, okay, well, then you get the transfers, and including the guy they brought in yesterday. But as I pointed out yesterday, I'd love to bank on him, but he also just got kicked off his team. Mm-hmm. So, can he last through the summer and avoid trouble? And then if so, what does that transition look like? So, yeah, it's just it's a situation that sucks for Baylor and for Ashton Hawkins, and I don't know what kind of clarity we'll get and how soon. But, man, the NCAA really screwed this one up, that's for sure, and left him in a position where he's not like the make or break to their team next season, but he was an important piece of their team next season and coming off a pretty good game. And, I felt like he was going to be a big piece. So that's definitely a bigger question mark now if he's not a part of the equation. Yeah.
We'll take a break right here. When we come back, Charles Barkley with some very Barkley-esque comments on NIL and Auburn. The 12th Man Foundation, something we didn't get to yesterday, down on money since the Jimbo Fisher buyout, at least donations, and some interesting notes about the NFL schedule and the league's march towards world domination.
Yeah, and I will follow up on, I'm not trying to like knock Lewis Brown, but it's like you were available for a reason, right? So I'm not going to sit there and think like, oh, you're just going to come in and make up. And I know they also got Cole Wilson from Texas State, and they also got Kobe Prentice from Alabama, and that's great. But I also just don't bank on guys just automatically transitioning over and being exactly what they were. Or in the case of a Kobe Prentice, like he had a good year a couple years ago at Alabama, and it was a good year, wasn't a great year. So I'm not just going to sit here and think, oh, well, he'll be a 1,000-yard receiver now. Why? Because I want him to be in my head, because it makes the puzzle make more sense. And so they brought in some guys, but I do think that Ashton Hawkins creates a big question. Shoes can be filled, but just wasn't expecting that curveball. So we'll see what they are able to do with that decision.
Absolutely. Let's hit the break. We'll be right back.
With Employee Pricing Plus at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive home a new Chrysler Dodge Jeep or Ram with smoking hot deals that slay the competition. Only at Allen Samuels. You're going to love it here.
Come by. Let's be friends.
I'll never get used to this.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
The Jeep Celebration event is on at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get the luxurious 2024 Jeep Grand Wagoneer with a huge $13,000 dealer discount plus 0% financing. Or take home a 2024 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, $15,000 off or 0% for 72 months. Plus, drive a 2025 Jeep Compass for just $25,900. Big savings, legendary Jeeps. Only at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Paul, Catalina, and Craig Smoak. Smokey is at the Academic All-Stars. He'll be back tomorrow. Charles Barkley was on Mac and Cube today with Greg McElroy and Cole Kubelik, who's on the show with us last week. He said, I've given more money to Auburn, legal or illegal, than any athlete in the history of the school. And the notion that I'm going to come up with a couple $1 million every year so that we can be good at basketball and football, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. He continues.
I don't have that one.
You don't have that one? Oh, well, he said he didn't want to be black and broke in America. He said that doesn't work in any municipality, anywhere, actually said in the world. So he's not going to keep doing that. And that brings up kind of an interesting thing that will dovetail nicely into our discussion about Jimbo Fisher so like they saw a $25 million revenue drop following the Jimbo Fisher buyout when it came to donations to the 12th Man Foundation. Eventually, Craig, we've talked about this, until you see some results, or you can't just keep going to the well. This is where revenue sharing becomes very important, because you're going to have to take from your the money you make on TV, because even the wealthy people are like, hey man, I can't just keep giving you money.
Yeah, I'll get to that part in a moment. I think there's another important part to Charles's quote where he said, he did say that he doesn't want to be black and broke in America, but that was leading to his bigger point of he wants to, he said, I'd do anything for Auburn within reason, but I'm not going to give Auburn millions of dollars so we can be good in football or basketball. That doesn't help my life in any capacity. And let me tell you something, black and broke does not work in any state, Guam, the District of Columbia, and all 50 states. I never want to be poor and black. That does not work. I don't think he's got to worry about that. So maybe when he said that, it was a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Yeah. I'm just reading the quote on paper. But he would go on to say, I just gave $10 million to HBCUs. That stuff is way more important to me. I just gave a couple $1 million to Blight in my hometown of Birmingham to tear down old houses and rebuild houses. That stuff is way more important to me than joining the cesspool that is college athletics. We're such a shitty country, Dan. We've ruined college athletics, and I don't even want to get in that cesspool. So there's some context that we were missing from just that original quote that goes a little bit further and lets you know how he really feels about the state of things. So, yeah, there's that sentiment, and I think there's probably, going back to the A&M thing there, there's probably some feeling of that. I think as much for Aggie supporters is like, where are the damn results, man? Like, you are a program that's been touting since this money flowing in college sports has become so public. You have, as much as anybody, touted how much you have, and you've thrown your weight around, and you've been one of those like a Miami that's gone out and grabbed the top class and spent very well to land all those 5 stars. But as we've talked about with some of those classes, how do they work out? They fizzled out in grand fashion in some cases, and so at some point, even if you have all the money in the world, like, people don't just want to set it on fire, and they got to see it actually amounting to something. And I feel like at this point, there's been a stretch where A&M's had some success that justifies the money, but then they've also had a lot of shortcomings to where even if you have the ability, like a Charles Barkley or someone else, to spend all this money, you're like, either one, I don't like college athletics the way that it is, and I can spend it tearing down old houses in Birmingham, or you're just like, you got to show me something before you deserve my money anymore, Texas A&M. Like, you got to go out and actually play for the SEC championship. They were very close last year. They were right there at the end. They had a chance to get into the SEC title game. So maybe this graphic doesn't exist if they had in fact beat Texas and found their way into that game. But I saw this, and I'm not surprised. It doesn't say they're running out of money. It just means that people aren't wanting to spend the way they were spending. And at A&M, they were spending big for the longest time. I mean, go back to when Johnny was doing his thing. I mean, they've been in the money conversation that entire time and haven't shied away from it. But, yeah, you do wonder at a certain point, like, are we just setting this all on fire, or is it actually going to go somewhere?
There's nowhere football-wise. And, like, not to mention how much they're spending on baseball this year because of spite. Not necessarily like, and look, they've kind of, righted the ship a little bit, but even still, they shouldn't have, like, for the amount of money they were paying, they shouldn't have had to worry about that early on in the year. But they did. They got they've got the big brother looming over them in Texas, and it's affected their decisions. But especially in football, no fan base has probably paid more for nothing than Texas A&M.
And the biggest part of this piece right here is that it's a lot of money is Jimbo. It's still Jimbo. It's buying out his stupid contract. So, he's the face of that graphic for a reason. That disastrous, I guess, breaking up and that contract that he had, I mean, that just was a lot of money they just set on fire and then had to go press the reset button again. So, yeah, I can see, and they've had, an athletic director change here recently, Ross Bjork.
They've had several.
Yeah, to Trev Alberts. And so there's been a lot going on behind the scenes. So, yeah, if I'm a big money Aggie donor, I've already spent God knows how much money to prop up the football program or to help pay a buyout or to buy a new baseball coach or whatever you've had to do. I'm actually not surprised by this. Again, doesn't say they're running out of it. It's just that people aren't willing to part with it as much because they've been parting with a lot of it lately, and they're not seeing return on their investment. So I don't think that comes as much of a surprise, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, the NFL. There are a lot of TV deals going on. NFL fans will have to spend $1,500 if you want to watch every single game across all of the services available, which include Netflix, YouTube TV, Peacock, Sunday Ticket, Amazon Prime, ESPN Plus $197 in taxes and fees. That's $1,500.40. So we did a show, Smokey and I did with a man named Butch Henry for a very long time. And Butch would always say, because he was an old grump, but lovable. And
how would he have thought about NIL and all this stuff going on the last few years?
Oh man,
I think he would have been fired on air at some point or another. I feel like he would have just lost his mind.
Yeah, he would have absolutely lost his mind. But he was like, all this going to pay-per-view. He called me pork chop. He'd say, chop. And probably everybody else is going to too. But chop is all going to damn pay-per-view, and he's, he would get mad. Like Baylor, back when I first started, that's when like pay-per-view college football was like in its waning days where.
Yeah, I'd have to watch Oklahoma for like $30 play Southeast Missouri in the first week of the season.
And Baylor was never on TV, but then they had like occasionally they would have a game that was on pay-per-view and they weren't very good. And he's like, I got to pay $36 damn to watch. And I'm cleaning this up a lot, and this was off the air, but I got to watch this, 2-10 Baylor team get their, one of their 2 wins of the year on pay-per-view, like, because I didn't even want to go out to the game, which, I mean, he could have gone and sat anywhere he wanted, but, Butch was a homebody. So, yeah, I mean, this is $1,500 for the whole year. That is a chunk, and it is the reason that and look, if I moved out of this market and wouldn't get to watch the Cowboys, even then I probably wouldn't necessarily need the Sunday ticket, but I would probably get it just in case of the ones that weren't. But I'm fortunate to live in the market where I get to see my favorite team all 17 games of the regular season. But holy cow, well, and the thing is I wouldn't now because they're going to be on Netflix. And I believe they're going to be on Peacock and a lot of other things this year because the NFL is on its way to world domination again. I feel like Smokey with all these papers here today. You sit in this chair and all of a sudden you become him. So they have – there it is. Golly, this is why we don't do this. Okay, so NFL scheduling announcements today. The Cowboys –
hold on, let's go back to that. I didn't think you were done with that.
Oh, yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, clearly the Netflix tag's like ad free, right?
Yeah.
Cause I don't pay.
Yeah.
I'll just watch commercials,
Yeah.
save $10, but yeah, I think the, the streamers convinced us that streaming was the future and then fractured everything to the point where now you're definitely paying more most of the time than you're paying for cable. I had cable built into my living situation, so I didn't really have much of a choice in it. And you know what? I think I'm better off. I actually looked into it. I looked into the YouTube TV and all that. And yeah, there's a lot of channels I don't watch, but for live sports, like it's very simple. I got cable and then I got a couple apps, but I'll tell you what, I'm not going to try and watch every NFL game. So I'm not a gambler at all. So I don't need to see every single game. I don't have like high stakes on every NFL weekend.
And the red zone is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you have that.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, but I don't play fantasy football. So I don't, I'll miss some games and I'm not going to pay all that damn money to make sure I see every single one. But I know there are gamblers, there are fantasy players, people I'm friends with, my brother-in-law that I'm sure will have all this because they need it to take it all in. But yeah, I don't know how many people will sign up for all of that to make sure they get every single game. That's asking a lot. And I do think the death of cable was highly exaggerated. It's probably coming at some point, but
the death of it in its old form, it's just gonna
evolve into something else.
It's just like the xenomorph from Alien, it's just gonna mold itself into a different thing.
Am I gonna drop cable and go get that new ESPN app that's like $35 or whatever it is per month so that I can get ESPN plus I can watch SportsCenter live, or am I just going to stick with cable and what I already have and I can just get ESPN plus and the Hulu and Disney bundle during the fall for like $15 or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It seems like you're just continuing to ask more and more people to pay to watch things. And so this whole streaming's revolutionizing and killing cable, and we're all going to be better off. I think that we got taken to the woodshed in a little bit, in a few ways.
Oh gosh, yeah, for sure we did. For sure we did. All right, and part of the reason that in the NFL, the schedule calendar has kind of worked out for them this year, where you've got some big brands that are playing each other, and especially with the AFC West and NFC East being matched up this season in the scheduling. So on Thanksgiving Day, this will crush the biggest number. Cowboys and Chiefs on Thanksgiving. Just shatter it, I think. It doesn't matter if the Cowboys are good. They are they're ratings proof. I mean, if
it mattered if they're good, they wouldn't be on every Thanksgiving Day game every single year. Yeah. I mean, if it was about being good at the time.
But I'm just preempting the response of what if the Cowboys suck and the Chiefs don't? Doesn't matter.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. And it's the only game that's on at that time at 4:00 Eastern.
That's what I'm saying. If it mattered about whether you sucked or not, the Cowboys wouldn't be there every single year because they've had their years where they're not very good. So, yeah, they're just an automatic ratings draw, and that's why they've been on Thanksgiving for my entire life. And the Lions, it's not so much, but they've got their place in the big Turkey Day, slate as well. So yeah, those two are just those mainstays, and I sure as hell am going to be tuned into this, and I'm excited for this. And I'm sure they'll make a big to-do about Patrick being back in Texas, even though he was just here last week, guys. He still lives here, still has a house in Tyler, still he's still around all the time. But
he's got a really sweet condo in Dallas too.
Yeah. I mean, yes, he's at Mavs games and all that. So, but as far as a storyline, I can see why they go with that one, and it's brilliant. I mean, that's like you said, it'll draw a huge rating, and that might even be a heck of a football game as well. Yeah. But that's going to be. Yeah, that's a big clash. That's going to be cool.
And then look, Netflix is also cashing in on the Cowboys and Chiefs. Both the Cowboys and Chiefs will play in Netflix. The Cowboys will play the Commanders, and the Chiefs will play the Broncos. So that is going to be huge for Netflix as well.
Yeah,
and the NBA, in the NFL's opinion, can now go screw itself. Because that's what they're saying.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for reminding me that the NBA was on Christmas Day. I wasn't even thinking about them. And
it worked.
Yeah, that was easy for me, easy decision. But yeah, that's a hell of a game, especially now Washington's relevant again and has a little bit of mojo and a little bit of fire in that fan base to have those two maybe rekindling this rivalry and taking it back to the level of yesteryear would be would be fantastic for those two franchises, for the NFL to have Cowboys Commanders matter the way that it used to matter. It's been a very long time. But man, it doesn't take much. Like when they are both relevant, like you can feel it. Like there's like, ooh, that kind of that familiarity of like, oh, this is the good stuff, like when these two are both good and taking each other on. So to put it on Christmas and make it a featured game, I think is a great decision. And what was the other one there?
The Chiefs and Broncos.
Yeah. So that'll same kind of vibes there, except for we just, see them, I think have been more in the heat of battle, more competitive with each other, probably consistently over the last several years. Think that all mostly due to Washington just being a dumpster fire. But yeah, this is another great game, another great rivalry, and you got the huge draw in Mahomes. So Netflix is spending a lot of money, but they're getting a couple of really huge games, and that's going to deliver monster ratings, however they configure those on Netflix. I can only imagine what those figures will look like. It's going to be a massive day for them on Christmas.
No, they're gonna kill it. Derrick Henry has signed a 2-year contract extension, $30 million with $25 guaranteed with the Ravens. Which
the Cowboys, right?
Yeah, I know the Cowboys
right.
Could have had him for this money.
He was too old.
Yeah.
It's too old.
I hate everything about this. I'm not a jersey guy. I might have bought a Derrick Henry Cowboys jersey.
Did you know he had a place in Dallas area?
Yeah.
You hear that?
I every time I see a picture of him,
or he sold it once he didn't get signed by Dallas. He's like, I don't need to be here anymore.
He in the interview, he's like, yeah, I really want to go to Dallas. That's where I stay in the off season. And I hear that's where I stay in the off season, like on a loop in my head.
I mean, I can understand.
I was on the treadmill this morning. I was just like, that's where I stay in the off season. That's where I stay in the off season.
Yeah, I think that it was somewhat understandable. I mean, I guess if you weren't privy to all of the things that they would have been privy to and discovering whether or not he was going to be worthy to sign, obviously Baltimore did their due diligence, and I'll take their front office over anybody's. And they felt he was a worthy investment, and they got their return last year in tenfold, and so now they're rewarding him, and rightfully so, because he does seem like he's got a lot of gas left in the tank. Not 5 years, but a 2-year deal. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
$15 million a year, absolutely. I mean, that seems like a great deal for both parties, and there will be that what if with Dallas for at least a couple more years while he continues to play. And there was a lot last year while we watched him do his thing. So, yeah, good for him.
Yep. And finally, I just wanted to throw this up, Craig. I'm very interested in this movie. It's directed by a madman in David O. Russell, who is crazy. And he's done a bunch of movies with Christian Bale. But Madden is coming out. Nick Cage is playing John Madden. I saw a bunch of people mad when they initially cast him, and I said, how dare you? Nicolas Cage has range. He'll be great. At least entertaining to watch as John Madden. And then Christian Bale, Batman himself, is Al Davis. And I kind of love that
Brad
casting.
Pitt playing Mark Davis. I mean, how Hollywood are we going with this?
Golly. But then, like, when I heard Christian Bale is playing Al Davis, like, look, they've made him look like him here, but that is way too handsome a guy to be playing Al Davis. But I'm sure he'll kill it because Christian Bale's great. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've never really been all that into. I was more so younger. I was into sports movies, not as much now. Like I don't know. I don't know if it's just an age thing or
we've been in this for a long time.
I think like that's what it is. People are like, they think that when I sign off, like I'm just obsessed with sports all the time. It's like, no, I typically take a little bit of a break from it, at least here and there, and everybody does. You don't just dwell on one thing, but. I do think that maybe we are just so fast and furious that I'd rather go watch the space movie or the war movie and not the sports movie. But I'm sure I'll come across this on Max late night back to HBO Max. Yeah. It doesn't even need to be Max. It just needs to be HBO.
Yes.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Max, HBO, undid the dumb ass decision to drop HBO off of their name and when they just became Max. And so it's like the whole point was HBO was what people know, and you dropped that to become Max.
Which is part of Cinemax, which was just softcore porn.
Yeah, Cinemax is like, I don't know anybody that's ever subscribed to Cinemax, but have seen it from time to time or whatever for mostly that reason. But yeah, now it's HBO Max again. So
yeah.
How many millions do they burn
How many
and
meetings,
advertising?
How many meetings did you have to go through to combine them and
this is why this is brilliant.
On the video board, just like swipe back and forth and then wait for the money people to be like, well, I like the word max.
Yeah, that's where everybody was kind of going that same direction. We're just whatever plus, right? Whatever plus. So we're going to do that. And so, yeah, it's HBO Max again. And I'm sure in a year or two that late night, one night, I'll be scrolling through and we'll see that movie and maybe I'll give it a go. But I'm not going to the theaters to watch that. I can tell you right now.
As a big Nicolas Cage fan, I'll probably see it pretty early on. I like Nicolas Cage. I'm like whether the movie's good or bad, he owns it.
Yeah.
Like he just goes all in, which I appreciate about the great Nick Cage. When we come back, Will Backus, CBS Sports, and then Manny Navarro of The Athletic, back to back. This is 365 Sports.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Welcome back. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, Will Backus from CBS Sports. Will, you've been doing some writing, my friend. You have written these top 10 columns, and thank you for doing so because, we can talk about actual, projecting out the football part of this as opposed to the ridiculous what is going to happen to the whole structure of the sport. But of these three, the of Michigan, Miami, among teams outside post-spring top 10 with best national title value, the underdogs, and the power rankings was the one that you really kind of flowed into the most.
I would probably say probably the power rankings, just because, I'm in Knoxville, so that's SEC country. I'd say the SEC is kind of what I tend to be plugged into the most. So I just kind of have the best sense of, where things stand in that conference. So I would say that one was probably the easiest one for me.
In that column, you have the interesting things that stuck out to me were, not really the top, because I think everybody kind of has some variation of that top with Texas, and then your 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever order you want to put them in. But Florida at 6, and South Carolina below them at 7. Now, that could be splitting hairs, but is DJ Lagway the savior in Gainesville?
I certainly think he could be. I was, obviously he had his ups and downs last year. He was kind of in a split time situation with Graham Mertz until Mertz got injured against Tennessee, and then Lagway took over full time. So it probably took him a little while to kind of get into the rhythm of being a full-time starting quarterback. He was also a true freshman, so there's going to be growing pains with that. He didn't make the best decisions, struggled a little bit with accuracy at times. That's kind of what you would expect from a freshman. What stood out to me is just his talent. You watch him and he just pops off the screen. He's obviously got a big frame. He's a big guy for a freshman. He did not look like a freshman. He looked like a guy that had been in a college football program for quite a few years. He's got a huge arm. He's got good rushing ability. He's good outside the pocket. And so I think the traits really stood out, and they were traits that, so long as he can kind of advance in the mental aspects of the game, get more comfortable running an offense, and kind of cut down on some of those freshman mistakes that you see, I think he's got the potential to be a real Heisman-type player. I think all the tools are there.
Well, it's been fascinating to me to see this offseason how Texas has lost so much talent, as you point out in your write-up about them. Double-digit guys, the NFL draft, new starting quarterback, and yet people are not hesitant at all to just put them right back into the mix to perhaps win the whole damn league. You've got them at number 1, and you laid out as to why, man. Was there any hesitance with that, or was that a pretty easy choice ultimately to put Texas at number 1 despite what they are losing this offseason?
Yeah, I flopped between Texas and LSU a good bit, just because I think LSU's done a really impressive job in the transfer portal this offseason. But I ultimately went with Texas because, they're losing a lot, but the talent base that Steve Sarkisian has built there is frankly ridiculous. They do an incredible job recruiting, and he's also the type of coach that does a really good job not over relying on the transfer portal. They've built so much depth that they more just use the transfer portal to patch up any holes that might be left. And we've seen them bring in guys in recent years like Matthew Golden, a lot of wide receivers, that have really stepped up for them through the transfer portal. But I'm just impressed with how he's built the team, how he's developed the team, how he's developed depth. A lot of the new players that are going to come in this year and kind of be big stars for them have seen a lot of playing time over the past couple of years. So there's less concern about their ability to step up for a lot of the NFL draft picks they've lost, just because they have experience. They've played in a lot of high-level SEC games before. And so, I'm really high on Texas. Tons of talent there, and I don't think that there's going to be too much drop-off between last year's team and this year's team. This year could be potentially even better.
So LSU at number 2, Garrett, our producer, lives and dies with the Tigers, and you have them at number 2. Has Brian Kelly fixed the roster enough? Because he kind of flipped what was going on before. It used to be the only thing they couldn't get was a quarterback. They had even the best punters and kickers and long snappers were at LSU. Everybody would want all 11 on defense and 10 of their 11 on offense, but not the quarterback. Now it seems that he's kind of flipped that, and that they have desirable quarterbacks, but everything else is not as powerful as it used to be.
Yeah, and I think the offense as a whole has been pretty solid under Brian Kelly, and a lot of that can be quarterback play. Obviously, they went from Jaden Daniels to Garrett Nussmeier. That's the type of transition that pretty much every single school would kill for. But they've had good wide receivers too. Malik Neighbors is a guy who was really good at LSU. He's lighting it up in the NFL now. And they've had solid offensive line play with guys like Will Campbell standing out on the offensive line. So I think offensively they've been really good under Brian Kelly. Their defense has been a mess. and specifically in the secondary, which is surprising because you look at LSU, like they're one of the schools that historically has a claim to DBU, right? Like we're used to LSU turning out NFL caliber defensive backs on a yearly basis and the types of defensive backs that most schools would want to have. But the secondary has been way below the level that it needs to be in recent years. And so I think that's what I really have my eye on this upcoming season is if they can get that secondary to come together. And they need some defensive linemen to stand out as well, too. They need to be better at getting after the passer. It would be helpful if Harold Perkins Jr. is healthy for a full year because he's a really solid pass rusher, kind of a pass rusher linebacker hybrid. And so, yeah, I've got my eye on the secondary. They did a good job in the transfer portal, getting guys like Mansour Delane from Virginia Tech who can start at cornerback immediately. A couple safeties like Tamarcus Cooley from NC State. I'm just interested to see how those pieces come together and if LSU can start taking steps back towards being that defensive back factory we've expected them to be.
You got Oklahoma right in the middle. They had as busy of an offseason as anybody probably other than Texas Tech in terms of making waves and headlines. How did you kind of settle on how high to go with them based on, kind of getting high on the own supply of what they've done this offseason and also just the reality of like, hey, making moves are great, but you also got to put it all together on the field. How did you kind of determine where to slot them given the great momentum, but still the lingering question marks?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the top of the power rankings. Honestly, what was most difficult for me was kind of sorting out that middle bunch between Texas A&M and Oklahoma and Auburn and even Tennessee. Like I kind of had all of them in the same type of tier where there's a lot of uncertainty in this offseason with each of these teams. Obviously, Tennessee's coming off a couple good years. A&M had a pretty good year in its first year under Mike Elko. And then Oklahoma and Auburn are kind of searching for life with their coaches, right? But, yeah, I mean, all of them have had interesting off seasons. And Oklahoma is one where I'm excited about the new offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle. I think he's the exact type of guy that Oklahoma needs to kind of revive that offense and get more out of the quarterback position. I'm still pretty hesitant about their wide receiver situation. Last year it was a complete mess, and injuries didn't help there. They got hit with an absurd amount of injuries at wide receiver. That's not always your fault. So this year they took, I think, like 4 or 5 transfers at wide receiver just to make sure that they're going to be able to have some guys out there, right? But, I'm curious as to how it develops there. But, yeah, I mean, I really like the Arbuckle hire and obviously bringing Arbuckle's quarterback, John Mateer, from Washington State, a guy that knows his system, a guy that has showed out in his system and performed really well in his system. There's some synergy there. I think that's something that could really work for Oklahoma coming up this season.
You also wrote about the 10 bleakest quarterback situations. I'll just start in the heart of Big 12 country here. There are 2 Big 12 teams on your list. At 7, UCF, and at 1, Oklahoma State. And the old adage was, if you've got a quarterback, you've got one. If you've got 3, you've got none. That seems to be kind of the theme of this article, starting with UCF and then Oklahoma State. They're both in different spots. One is a coach coming back essentially in his first year with a program. I know that's not really with Scott Frost, but his first year in this new era there. And then the other one is a guy who is, for the first time, under fire after 21 years at his program.
Yeah, I mean, UCF is in, and these are schools that, even when you look at like bleakest quarterback rooms, I think all of them are even a little bit different when you really sit down and analyze them. Like, for example, UCF's quarterback room has 3 guys that have played a lot of college football. They've got Cam Fancher, who was a starter at Marshall and Florida Atlantic. They've got Taven Jackson, who spent time at Tennessee. He started some games at Indiana, so he's played in the SEC and the Big Ten. And then they've got Ja'Cory Brown, who started some games for UCF last year and has played high-level college football before. So they've got a lot of guys that have a lot of experience, but they're also guys that have kind of flamed out at schools they've been at, right? Like Taven Jackson couldn't win the starting job at Tennessee. He couldn't hold down the starting job at Indiana and got beat out by a transfer last year in Curtis Rourke. Cam Fancher was kind of up and down when he was at Marshall and Florida Atlantic. Never really impressed too much. And if he's not going to get it done there, not sure he's going to be able to get it done at UCF. And then Ja'Cory Brown like I said, he started a little bit for UCF last season, but the same kind of situation where he just could not take advantage of an uncertain quarterback situation. So you got 3 experienced guys, but none of them are really impressive. And then you look at a school like Oklahoma State, where they've got 3 guys that have never thrown a pass in a college football game before. Like none of the quarterbacks on their roster have attempted a pass in a college football game. And so there's just so much uncertainty there because they're young. A guy like House Haney was a 4-star prospect out of college. And Zane Flores was also a pretty decent level recruit, but they're completely unproven. And especially at a school like Oklahoma State, which has had so much stability under Mike Gundy. I mean, Mike Gundy's a quarterback guy. Like, that's his thing. He was a quarterback coach. He was an offensive coordinator. You would expect him to be able to figure out the quarterback position, but it's just such a huge question mark for Oklahoma State this season that it was hard to put another school in that spot.
You also list Kentucky on the list here, and Zach Calzada, who has been everywhere. He's been at A&M. He's been at Georgia. He's been at Incarnate Word. He's made trips around the South. Is probably going to start, I would think, there, but they've got 5 guys. Did they know anything like after spring about where they're leaning? Because they do have like 2 grad transfers and then a bunch of freshmen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be Calzada. It would almost have to be, right? Because their other graduate is Bo Allen, who actually signed with Kentucky originally and spent a few years with the program, transferred out, and then transferred back in. He's never really been a consistent starter, no matter where he's gone. I think he was just a guy that they brought in, maybe to be a clipboard quarterback. He's experienced, so he can kind of help some of the younger guys, coach them up. And he's also just a break glass in case of emergency type depth option. Right, you just kind of want another guy with experience, especially when you've got, 2 true freshmen and a redshirt freshman. It's good to have that experience. I think it's going to be Calzada, just because he is coming off a pretty good year at Incarnate Word, and you've seen like a guy like Cam Ward recently, right, who went through a program at Incarnate Word and then kind of built his way up to being a Heisman finalist. Calzada is not going to get there. I'm not very high on him, being at Kentucky at all. But, he comes from a good program at the FCS level, one that develops quarterbacks pretty well. And so he has that working to his advantage. So, yeah, I think it's his job. But I'm not really high on how he translates to the SEC, especially since he's been in the SEC before as a younger quarterback, and he didn't really light the world on fire his first time around.
Will, you had your post-spring top 25, and I saw 6 Big 12 teams in there. And as is probably going to be the case with most polls, there's not a real great separator, right, for these teams. You kind of have an idea who's going to be good, but how do you sort of separate them? You got K-State at 13, BYU 14, TCU 15, Arizona State 17, Iowa State 19, Texas Tech 21. If that plays out the way that you think it might, it ought to be a crazy year in the league. Just how wild do you think the Big 12 can get, and why K-State as is your top team, but what separated them maybe slightly from the rest of them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Big 12 is going to be chaotic, right? And that's just kind of the Big 12 signature. The Big 12 is chaos incarnate. Like, that's just a conference. Like, I am so glad that I was not tasked with power ranking the Big 12 specifically or picking a Big 12 winner, because at this point I kind of just feel like it's a bit of a dart throw. I look at quarterback situations. I really like what Avery Johnson can be for Kansas State. But, I mean, almost every other school in the Big 12 also has a super experienced quarterback, right? I mean, BYU does, TCU does, Arizona State does, Iowa State does, Texas Tech does, Baylor does. And so, like, it's going to be a mess. I think it's going to be as heated of a race as it was, if not more so, last year to this year. I like Kansas State's quarterback situation. I always trust Chris Kleiman as a coach. I think he's one of the best coaches in college football and absolutely right there near the top in the Big 12. And so, when it comes to off-season rankings, like, those are kind of the things you lean on just because there's so much uncertainty elsewhere. No games have been played. And so you kind of look at track record, right? But yeah, I mean, there's really not too much separating these Big 12 teams. It's not like Kansas State is. There's a gulf between Kansas State and Texas Tech just because they're that far apart in the rankings. Like, I think they're all extremely close at this point.
I'm looking at your post-spring dark horses, I guess, or teams outside the top 10. Michigan, you have it, the national title odds plus 2,800. Post-spring ranking is 16. Now, who do you think will wind up starting the first few games there? Do you think Bryce Underwood can win this job? I'm a big Mikey Keene fan. I actually think had Mikey Keene gone there last year, they might have been in contention for the Big Ten title because he was way better than Davis Warren or Alex Orji or anybody who took a snap for Michigan a year ago. But do you think Bryce Underwood could start the season as the starting quarterback?
I think it's going to be a situation where we see Mikey Keene get his chance, and it hurts him that he's missed spring because of injury, so he hasn't had that time to kind of get into the rhythm with Michigan and learn the offense and get used to his personnel. But I just think that he's going to get his chance to go out there and be the starting quarterback at least for the first few games, and I think they'll kind of reevaluate. After, because they play Oklahoma early, right? So that's going to be a really good kind of early benchmark of where their offense is at against higher level teams with Mikey Keene running things. And I think after those first few games, if they don't like what they see, then they're going to be pretty quick to hand things to Bryce Underwood. One, because I think Underwood is about as college ready as a freshman quarterback can get. He's already got the frame for it. He's very well built, so you're not necessarily worried about his durability. And I just think that he has so much talent that you just he's one of those guys like a DJ Lagway, right? Where you kind of ride out some of those freshman mistakes and errors. So Keene's going to get his chance, but I think it's going to be hard to keep Underwood on the bench all year, especially because you have to think about the transfer portal. I know Underwood can tell you he's happy with the situation and he's happy sitting a year and developing, and you can feel good about that right now. But you never know what it's going to look like at the end of the year if Underwood did not get his opportunity and another school comes along and they're like, hey, here's, $3 million in a starting job. How do you feel about that? I think you have to keep him happy. And so I think that he'll get his opportunities to play as well, even if Keene kind of solidifies his spot as the starter.
Will Backus, CBS Sports. Will, keep up the great work. Keep spinning out the information. Really appreciate it. Thanks for hopping on today.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it.
Yeah. From that to look, one of the teams that he had listed was Miami. It was right after Michigan, and I would have asked Will about that had we not had our next guest coming on, Manny Navarro of The Athletic. And Manny, a lot of questions going into the offseason for Miami because they lost the number one pick in the draft. They had to get a new defensive coordinator, but it appears that the offseason has gone really well for them. And then, of course, yesterday getting Jackson Cantwell, the number one overall prospect. Is this trending in the direction where because they were very close to, if you don't get a Carson Beck, you might have seen last year just be an anomaly. Is this trending in the direction that Mario Cristobal has promised the Miami fans that it would?
Yeah, I think so, especially from a NIL budgeting perspective. He's gotten all the financial support he's needed to be able to go out and get the kind of players that he thought he could bring in if he had the budget. Let's be honest, that's what college football is nowadays. You have to have the money to be able to secure some of these commitments from players. And Miami for years, the real reason it was struggling behind the scenes is they weren't paying not only players but coaches before NIL became legal. And so there's been an influx of funds because the University of Miami feels from a school perspective that football is very important. The people in charge now that are in charge of that money feel football is important. And so collectively, between that and the money that they have in NIL, they've been able to get this thing headed in the right direction. They had the number one offense in the country last year, won 10 games for only the second time in the last 20 years. So, yes, I think it sucked they didn't make the playoff. It sucked they didn't even get to the ACC championship game. But real progress was made, and getting Carson Beck was one of those signs.
Manny, you have been in the thick of NIL and those types of conversations when it comes to recruiting since it's become legal to do. How interesting has it been to see the reaction to a commitment like yesterday and just the way people are freaking out and flipping out over why he chose Miami? Or it's kind of crazy, man. From your perspective, since you've been pretty much since it all started, Miami's been in the mix to some extent. What's it like to kind of see the ongoing conversation, especially in light of an event like yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I think, most college football fans just assume, and that was kind of the basis for my column today was, this is a kid that's supposed to end up somewhere in the SEC, right? A 5-star offensive tackle, a kid out of Missouri. The fact that Miami could spend enough money to be in the thick of it with him, like I said, having just 2 10-win seasons in the last 20 years and not even winning an ACC championship yet, I think upset a lot of fans. And Miami fans are upset because they're just, offended by the fact that people think it's just the money. Mario Cristobal obviously has a great track record with offensive linemen. He was one himself. Him and Alex Mirabal do a heck of a job recruiting linemen. They got 2 5-stars previously to this here at Miami. One of them is Francis Mauigoa, who's probably going to be a 3-and-done player, first-round pick. They're starting right tackle for the last 2 years. So, I think, it's funny how everybody in college football gets up in arms when Miami gets a recruit like this, but everybody's paying top dollar now for these guys, man. I go to the Under Armour All-American game every year, and I talk to these kids off the record about salary. Everybody's getting paid a good amount of money.
Yeah, especially, Manny, at our age, like when you ask a kid who's 17, what are you getting paid? And he's like, well, I'm thinking 2.5. And you're like,
yes,
that's got to sting. That's got to sting right there. But getting a left tackle, I've always kind of felt too, that is maybe even more or just as important as getting that quarterback, because then you get the defensive tackles get excited and all those things, because it does appear that you are prioritizing linemen as opposed to the skill guys, which kind of, even in the down years, Miami can kind of just go get some skill guys.
Yeah, I think you're always going to have more receivers, running backs available than you are 5-star legitimate, high quality linemen. That left tackles don't grow on trees at all. Mm-hmm. And so when you can get somebody like that, and that's what they did. I mean, they did the same thing with Francis Mauigoa a couple years ago. A kid that came to the United States from America, Samoa, and went to IMG Academy down here in Florida for his last couple years, and they recruited the hell out of him. And I'm sure he got himself a sweet NIL deal as well to come to Miami. So yes, it's the right approach. It's really hard to get elite linemen to transfer these days, whether it's offensive or defensive linemen. They usually just end up going to one school, and they're usually 3-and-done. And so I thought this was a smart approach to throw the bag at Jackson Cantwell and make sure that you secured him.
Saw the video you posted earlier today. Carson Beck looking good out on the practice field. I was just throwing it around, but looks like all signs are go that he's getting healthy or is healthy and on track, I guess, for the season here in a few months.
Yeah, didn't really do anything much during spring camp with Miami other than standing around and watching the other quarterbacks throw and being in quarterback meetings. But this was expected. He had surgery. It's usually a 5-month delay following the surgery before you actually start throwing the football. Well, guess what? It's 5 months later. So he's throwing the football now. He will be in the summer program. And everything I've heard is that he will be ready for the start of the season. And that's a good thing for Miami, because obviously you talked about replacing Cam Ward, such a tremendous weapon last year. Look, Carson Beck was a very highly touted quarterback before he and the Georgia offense sort of sputtered a little bit last year with drops and interceptions and just not scoring a whole lot of points. I think he's coming into a very good system. Does Miami have high-quality receivers? I think they've got some really talented young ones, but they need guys to develop fast so that Carson has a good supporting cast around him.
What do you think about, I know you weren't at the meetings, but coming out, straight seating, Jim Phillips, they've kind of all agreed to that now, but he did not really comment on automatic qualifiers. Mario Cristobal said he thinks the idea is stupid. I agree with him. And then Dave Doran said, well, we want at least 3 if they're going to do that. Where do you think that the ACC will they fight to the death for no numbers of automatic qualifiers, just the conference champion? Or do you think that this is the beginning of maybe a capitulation on that a little bit?
Yeah, look, they talked about this last year, right? That maybe, hey, you get 2 bids if you're the ACC and the Big 12. And the fear was always that, this is ultimately going to be dominated if you just did automatic qualifiers, that by the end of the season, you're going to have 6 SEC teams and and 5 Big Ten teams all high up in the rankings. I don't know what the perfect scenario is for the ACC and the Big 12. If you just take 2 and you're sort of satisfied with that, I think ultimately here, especially if it goes to 16 teams like we're expecting, you're going to need some automatic qualifiers. You can't just guarantee that conferences get X amount of teams in every single year. To me, what I'm looking forward to more is ultimately what they do with the conference championship games, because I wrote this column last year after I went to the ACC title game and saw SMU lose. That I think for a lot of these teams, it's not worth playing the conference championship game if you're going to end up missing, especially the ACC and Big 12 teams. There's no point in playing the game if you're better off not playing and losing it. You lose that game, it could potentially knock you out. So I want to see ultimately if there's some sort of remedy to how they handle the championship games going forward in those conferences, and even the SEC, right? I mean, what's the point of Georgia playing in an SEC championship game if they're in the big dance? They'd rather have that than potentially lose and get knocked out. So I think that goes for everybody.
Well, and especially with straight seeding, though, right? So, I mean, you get to the end of the year, you 1 through 12, 1 through 16, whatever it is, why would anybody want to mess up their chance, especially if you're 1 through 4 right now and have that automatic bye? And if they keep, I don't know if they, with 16, there's no buys. With 14, there's maybe a bye, but it looks like it's going 16. So why would you want to mess up your seeding and potentially in 16 get 2 home games if that's what they do?
Right. And I think ultimately here, what those championship games should be is turn into playing games, right? Like have the teams that are fighting for that 4th spot that the SEC gets or the 4th spot that the Big Ten gets, have them play for that spot versus having your traditional championship game. Ultimately, this is about health too, late in the year. Let's not forget these guys are playing 12-game seasons. It's a longer playoff road. I think ultimately I'd like to see play-in games versus conference championship games where, look at Georgia. They lost Carson Beck in the conference championship game. That completely changed their season, right? So I think they'd be better off just making them play-in games.
So, Manny, we know some of the kind of, I guess, concessions the agreements made to kind of keep this ACC thing together and happy for at least the foreseeable future. There was a Clemson-Notre Dame scheduling agreement that was talked about a week ago that's apparently not folded into the actual games Notre Dame will be playing in the ACC. It's like a separate agreement. I just wondered, where does Miami find itself and kind of what are they feeling as far as just all of the kind of things being done to appease people? Where are they in sort of the pecking order of maybe having their voice heard? And just, where are they, in your opinion, Miami in the grand scheme of things with the ACC?
Well, they're thankful that they didn't have to fork out a bunch of money to go fight the ACC in court, that Florida State and Clemson did that for them. I think certainly they kind of played it smart. Look, Miami knows that they're a valuable entity, especially when they're good, right? When Miami has a chance to win a conference championship or make the playoffs, people are going to tune in and watch them. They certainly had a reason to tune in and watch them last year when Cam Ward was quarterback. So from a television revenue, television attention perspective, they'll get a chance to play Notre Dame here a few times in the next few years as well. They have the annual game with Florida State. Hopefully Florida State gets back to being Florida State. I think as a university, the feeling is let's see what happens over the next couple of years with the ACC. We're happy with where we're at. But ultimately, I think they have their eye on getting to one of the Power 2 conferences because that's where everything is heading. We are headed towards a Super League, I think, in some capacity, whether or not they call it that or just remain in conferences with interconference games like Clemson and Notre Dame. We will see what happens in the next few years. But I think Miami right now is satisfied. Like I said, they've got a pretty big NIL collective, a healthy one with a lot of private investors that are putting money into securing this roster and making them better. So, but we'll see where we are in a few years when those TV contracts make it a big disparity between the ACC and Big Ten and SEC.
Do you feel tension? I mean, in Tallahassee right now, though, because of their state, like you mentioned, if Florida State gets back to it. But if you look at Miami, just got the number 1 recruit. Billy Napier is killing it right now in recruiting. So is Miami. Florida State's 14th, 15th, 20th, depending on who you're looking at. that's not a reasonable pace to keep at. And the high school recruiting has been Mike Norvell's Achilles heel. And I think that's the bigger reason that Gus Malzahn is there. Not so much the play calling. I think that the play calling is a bonus, but I think it's more about closing those high school recruits. Do you sense that there, that like they're at risk of falling behind, especially since they went and put all this out on the table and said, hey, we're a brand. We're this, and then 2-10.
Yeah, I think the problem for Florida State is probably NIL funding. I don't think that they have as much of a strong base to go out and get guys the way that Miami can in the ACC. I think that's part of the issue. I think the other part of the issue is Mike Norvell prefers the transfer portal. I don't know that he has ever really been enamored with recruiting. I think, coming from Memphis and just where he's been before, you can find guys that aren't necessarily 4 and 5 stars and pay them top dollar. And so I think that's been their sort of perspective. I think Florida State's just had a different approach, whereas Mario Cristobal loves the recruiting rankings as much as he says he doesn't. And he pays attention to who the 5-star recruits and the 4-star recruits, and he pours so much more energy into it. So I think Florida State's issue is that they had a bad year identifying guys in the transfer portal. And I don't know that Gus Malzahn will necessarily fix it. I think Gus Malzahn can certainly fix the offense. I think he's probably got a better quarterback suited for Florida State to have some success this year. But ultimately, what Florida State did a couple years ago, where they were right there on the doorstep of getting into the 14 playoff, was a product of what they did on the defensive side of the ball. And I think last year, losing everybody they did on defense and just struggling to stop the run at times, I think that really hurt them. And obviously what they had on offense, they picked the wrong quarterback out of the transfer portal. They went with DJU instead of Cam Ward, and they ended up paying for it.
Well, and that was an NIL thing too. I mean, I think Cam Ward came back to them and said, hey, this is what they're paying me. And they said, the beaches are lovely.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I said NIL was a big deal for Florida State.
Make sure you get down and get a couple sandwiches down there. They're way better down there than they are up here. So sorry about it. That's kind of how it went down. Manny, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Enjoy the summer. I know we'll talk to you again soon. Do you get downtime coming up? I mean, you live in Miami, which is a downtime city anyway.
Yeah, I get plenty of time to be with my daughters, who are both soccer players, and spend some time with them as they travel around and do stuff. So I've got a good life down here. I can't complain at all.
That's right. All right, Manny Navarro, the Athletic, joins us. Thanks, Manny, for hopping on today. Really appreciate it. When we come back, got a couple things to get to. Garrett, let's do these quarterback battles. I think that's the better one. We can push Michigan State to tomorrow, and then we'll have Eli Letterman at 5:00, and then Rob Bolton will do our draft. And you'll get to see Smokey in I'm assuming a suit. I don't think he changes.
I got to figure that out with him.
Yeah. Okay.
He just sent me a text.
Okay. Golly. Such a diva, Craig. How'd you grow up in that house? I don't know.
In my room with the door closed.
That's probably the answer I expected, actually, when I think about it. When we come back, we're going to talk about the college football quarterback battles to watch entering the summer from Pete Nakos. This is 365 Sports.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is a premier, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. A pursuit of a better you with fitness programs available. Is your body or are you ready for the beach this summer or the swimming pool or just to feel better? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes every single week, including boot camps, indoor cycling, and so much more. Classes also available on the weekends. Free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and a spacious weight room floor. Personal training where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. Special amenities with sauna in both the men's and women's locker rooms, tanning bed, and kids club. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court and 8 pickleball courts. They are packed every single day. Begin your journey today. Get ready for the summer. It's not too late. WacoTennis.com or next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and Equal Housing Lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
Wait for Craig here for just a second, but we're going to talk about the top quarterback battles entering the summer. Emory Winter was at the Thunder and Nuggets game last night, and finally we get to see him again. This first time in a week we've seen Emory in the flesh. All I knew from him was just little text bubbles for the last few days, but Emory and last night I found out that my wife has been a Nuggets fan since 2021 or something, and or 22, whatever it was. And I'm like, oh, okay. Great. So now Amanda and Emory are at odds, but I didn't realize. And I was like, well, I thought you were a Bulls fan. And so I text her brother, and he's like, yeah, I'm kind of doing the same thing because the Bulls have been terrible for 25 years. And I'm like, yeah, but so you're just rooting for the Kansas players.
Man, I know that's family, dude, but they jumped on the Nuggets bandwagon when the Nuggets won a world title.
Yeah, pretty much.
Completely out of
Christian
nowhere.
Brown.
That's
Christian
not real
Brown.
fandom. I'm sorry. It's not
exactly.
real fandom.
That's what I said. I said, well, it's not, And she goes, well, you don't you're a Spurs fan. You don't run around yelling about him all the time. I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, since Kawhi Leonard left, it's been dark. I'm excited about the future, though, because of Wemby and this number 2 pick and Castle and all that stuff. So, I said, we're a Spurs household. That's what we are. So, but apparently we're divided because, she's Christian Brown. So I didn't get it, but Emory, I'm not on your side, but I'm not on your side. If that makes any sense to you. All right. So college football quarterback battles entering the summer via Pete Nakos. At Alabama, Ty Simpson versus Austin. How do you want to do this, Craig? You want to go one by one or just
sure segment, Pat?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one by one. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. So Ty Simpson versus Austin Mack versus Keelan Russell. We'll start with that one. I think Ty Simpson's won the job, but they haven't announced it yet. And Austin Mack followed Kalen DeBoer from Washington and Keelan Russell. He's from Houston, right?
He's from Dallas, Duncanville.
Duncanville. He's from Duncanville. From Duncanville is the true freshman, future star there, they think. I don't really think that I don't think we'll see him this year, but we've only seen a little bit of Ty Simpson, and it was in the rain against USF a couple years ago, which was a terrible game all the way around for Alabama. But Craig, this one, it's a battle, but I'm not as intrigued by it because I do think it's just going to go to Ty Simpson.
Well, Kalen DeBoer said today that if they had to play today, it'd be Ty Simpson.
Yeah.
So there's your answer.
Yeah. So
I think that was the favorite already. And the other guys, I think he wants the competition and to allow them to, be in the mix. And who knows what kind of crazy things I guess could happen over the course of the summer. But it seems pretty clear, even without that quote, but especially with that quote, that right now it's Ty Simpson. So I think that one's clearer than probably some of the others on this list.
Yeah. At Syracuse, this one, Garrett, I'm very intrigued by. I know you are probably a little bit too, because Ricky Collins, who was one of the heir apparents at LSU, when Garrett Nussmeier was coming back, which I don't know why he was surprised about, but But Garrett Nussmeier came back. He's going to play another year. Ricky Collins says, okay, I'm going to go play at Syracuse. Then after spring, Steve Angeli loses out on the Notre Dame quarterback job, and he transfers to Syracuse. And we've seen him. We've never seen Ricky Collins play. We have seen Steve Angeli play in the college football playoff for a stretch, and he played really well when he was in the game. Craig, I know that this is a guy who lost a job versus a guy who clearly didn't do enough to win it so they didn't get back in the portal. But even still, this one is very intriguing to me to see what happens when Steve Angeli gets there and starts practicing at Syracuse.
Yeah, I haven't followed this one super closely, but I do know that, Fran Brown felt it was necessary to go or felt it was a good idea to go and get Angeli when he became available. So that tells me that he wasn't completely sold, obviously, on Ricky Collins. And I think with Angeli's experience, if I had to pick a starter, I think I'm going with Angeli to start the season and then, kind of go from there as all teams will. But he was brought in for a reason to compete. So I feel like, there are some cases where maybe it's just to push a guy, but I think with Angeli's background, you're not bringing him in just to push a guy in spring football and in the fall and then bench him, basically, if that makes sense. I think you're bringing him in because you think he could maybe be a better starter for you.
Yeah.
So that's where I lean is Steve Angeli.
And his stretch, go back and watch it in the college football playoff game when Riley Leonard was out banged up. He was fantastic. He helped keep him in that game, as a matter of fact. So we've seen him do some good things, but, really wasn't quite, what they wanted at Notre Dame. I'm going to skip to Notre Dame since that's a better flow through here. And so Kenny Minchie and CJ Carr, the quarterbacks, vying for that one. I think CJ Carr is the leader of the clubhouse. I know from what I've read, they seem to really like Kenny Minchie as well, but CJ Carr, grandson of Lloyd Carr, legendary Michigan head coach, is there. I think it's his job. Talking to a couple of Notre Dame guys last year, we did some segments. I asked about Steve Angeli, and they said, yeah, even before CJ Carr had played, they just kind of felt it was CJ Carr's job to lose once Riley Leonard left.
Yeah, I haven't tracked this one super closely, but it's a battle of guys with no production. It's going to be a blank slate for both of these guys. Not entirely, I don't think, in Minchie's case, but very, very little substance to either one of their careers so far because they're both super young. They're both very young guys. So yeah, they're going to be rolling out a fresh, meat type of quarterback, whichever one they decide. But it does sound, just from reading the tea leaves and just various reports out there, like it is leaning towards Carr based on what I've seen. Again, I haven't followed that one in particular super closely, but if I had to predict, and I think I'm going Carr in that quarterback battle.
Yeah, me too. The reports on him earlier, he did get hurt a little bit, banged up in the spring game, and then came back in. But it appears everything's good to go. We'll finish with Tennessee, Garrett. I don't want to. That one's the wildest one, obviously. But at Ohio State, they're replacing a ton of guys. They're replacing not only on the field, but both coordinators. All of that is changing. Matt Patricia comes in to coach the defense. Brian Hartline elevated to be the full-time offensive coordinator now with that title. And they've got Julian Sayin, who's the number one recruit in the country in the 2024 class, against Lincoln Kienholz, who was a guy who was very highly recruited, but not the highest recruited player in the country. I think this is Julian Sayin, Craig. I mean, I also skipped Colorado on this one, but we got a couple of guys on this list who are true freshmen who are maybe not in the Bryce Underwood category, but or redshirt freshmen that are right behind him. I think Julian Sayin is that dude.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I would be shocked if it's not him. I mean, Kienholz is obviously pushing him. There have been reports that it's neck and neck and what have you. But, yeah, I mean, it seems like it's Sayin's time to shine, and kind of got the rumblings of that last year when they started to look past Will Howard of what the future would look like. I mean, he's always the guy that you pointed to as just a logical successor. So, if I had to place my bets on who is rolling out for the Buckeyes in week number 1, I'm going with the super blue chip there and Julian Sayin.
Yeah. Aaron Noland was also there, and he transferred to South Carolina before spring ball. So he kind of knew the writing on the wall as well, and he's going to be the backup for Lenora Sellers this year. And he was very highly recruited as well.
Yeah, he was. That's going to be really nice for Beamer to be able to turn the page after Sellers goes to the NFL. If that's this year remains to be seen, but he's obviously an exceptionally talented player as well. So, yeah, South Carolina's quarterback room seems like it's in really good hands moving forward. And, I know Kienholz is a highly recruited guy or highly rated player as well, but not to the level of Sayin and, being the second, or not the second, but being the next coming of, the lineage of great Ohio State quarterbacks. It just seems like that's the direction that it's supposed to go is him taking over. But yeah, South Carolina will be, I think they're setting up to be, solid for quite a while.
Yeah.
With Beamer there doing his thing.
Yeah. This battle at Ohio State in particular is not just who's the starter, but now you start wondering, okay, where's the other guy going to transfer to eventually? And they're both really highly rated. So, and they're both the same eligibility level at redshirt freshmen. So, or right there. So back to Colorado, Caden Salter versus Julian Lewis. Craig, I think this is Caden Salter's job, but I don't think he's going to have a lot of room for error because he is, and you've made this point very clear, he's about to play the best schedule he's ever played in college by a long, and it won't even be close.
Yeah, I mean, unlike what Kienholz was saying, where there's the veteran and you actually go with the younger guy, I think I do go with the older guy here. I mean, Salter's played a lot of football. He's played a lot of football, even if it was at Liberty for a couple years against a very manageable schedule, let's say. And even if that props some things up in terms of his numbers, he's still a guy who's played, like I said, a lot of football at this stage. He's been in trouble and he's found his way out of it, and he's had some downs and he's had a lot of ups. And I think he's built to be that transition quarterback coming off of Shedeur and then leading into your young guy eventually in Julian Lewis. And I don't think that, unless he's just so primed and ready for it that if he rolls in, he just beats Caden Salter after the starting job with nothing but his high school resume, and he just goes and beats him out, then that'll be a hell of a story because Caden Salter's been playing for a long time. He's approaching 100 games at this point. Maybe not that close, but there's a vast difference between the two. So, yeah, I default to the vet here, and I think that'll be the way they start off. Now, who knows? I don't know how much it'll take, but I definitely don't think it's impossible that Julian Lewis sees the field or that he's maybe not even a starter by the end of the year if Salter were to struggle, because Salter will be moving on after this season. I believe he's out of eligibility. Yeah, so he's got to move on. So, yeah, I expect we'll see a little bit of Lewis, but to start off with, I go Salter,
Yeah, I think that one's probably the least clear cut of this guy wins the job and keeps it the whole year.
Yeah, that's the one that's easiest to me to predict, honestly. I think, it's closer to home. I've just followed that one a bit closer. But, yeah, that to me seems like a no-brainer. And there shouldn't be a rush. Salter's there to be the guy to bridge the gap, not to be the guy just to push the freshman to be a better freshman. He's there to help the freshman not have to be everything and anything right out of the gates. So I think that was a smart move on Deion's part. And I just think the question with Salter is the level up in competition. He started his career at Tennessee, got in trouble, got booted, goes to Liberty, had a really good year 2 years ago. They got demolished, though, at the end by Oregon in the bowl game, if you'll remember. And then last year was kind of an afterthought, quite frankly. He went from being on a player of the week list seemingly every week 2 years ago to maybe being on it once or twice the entire year. So it was just is not quite the same last season. But I think he's more than a quality player.
Top 2 receivers also left in the transfer portal last year.
Yeah, they just weren't the same team as the great run to, what bowl was that, the Fiesta Bowl maybe, against Oregon a couple of years back. Yeah. So that to me, just knowing the situation a little bit closer, I think is the clearest one.
In this one, college football's first accidental trade, Joey Aguilar comes in from UCLA, as that's where Nico Iamaleava went. And I think the reason this one, I mean, obviously,
look at all of us are able to say Nico Iamaleava now, pretty much without stuttering too much. And I start to stutter as soon as I say it, but we could all say it now. Like, thanks for that story here in the last few weeks. Everybody is able to not pronounce his name correctly, I think.
Yeah. But none of the 3 guys in this quarterback competition, the day before spring football ended, thought they would be the starting quarterback at Tennessee in 2025.
Yeah.
Like, none of the 3 of them. Jake Merglinger and George McIntyre, they were, okay, well, Nico is, going to start this year and then likely go to the NFL draft if all things goes well. And then, Jake and George are like, we'll battle it out in the spring in 2026. Now they're thrust into a quarterback competition with Joey Aguilar, who transferred to UCLA from App State, thinking, hey, I can, he's had a nice career at App State. I'm going to go to UCLA and help Deshaun Foster and some of the things they've got going on there. And then Nico decides that he wants to be back home, or whatever the reasoning was and all that. It's all still, is conjecture because we haven't heard directly from Nico yet. But Joey Aguilar comes in. He's probably going to start the season, but this could be chaos in Knoxville this year.
I mean, an injury could definitely throw for a loop, but I'm saying Joey Aguilar is a starting quarterback. I mean, that's pretty clear the way they moved on from Nico to go and get him. I don't think that one's much of a question mark. But if there's an injury or something along those lines, then that could get really weird really quick. So Tennessee, man, what an offseason, huh? Go from being basically book them in the playoff again. Seems like it's almost a no-brainer to have them maybe back in the mix, although they did lose a lot. So if you didn't, I don't blame you at all. But just you could at least say that you were expecting a really solid year at worst, and now you're like maybe – I mean, we were just talking to Will a few minutes ago. He has Tennessee at like 11 or something in their power rankings, and they would have been a borderline playoff team prior to the Nico move. So, man, what a punch to the gut. It'll be a cool story if one of these guys is able to just kind of take the mantle and run with it and make them super competitive and in the mix. I don't think any of these guys unlock them the way that Nico was going to unlock them. Not that he was like the perfect player by any means, but he was as highly rated as he was for good reason. So, I think this is Joey Aguilar, but it could get kind of squirrely if another wrench is thrown into the picture.
Yeah, it could be very, very wild. Eli Letterman, Max Olson, and Adam Rittenberg wrote a very expansive column on the post-spring Power 4, rankings and who should feel good. We had Adam Rittenberg yesterday. Today, we have Eli Letterman. He comes up next. This is 365 Sports.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved, learn how at Baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Penny to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Eli Letterman of ESPN.com joins us now. And Eli, you and your compatriots, Adam Rittenberg and Max Olson. Adam was on the show yesterday. You're on the show today. Maybe I'll have Max tomorrow. And then, with an assist from Bill Connolly, made a very comprehensive offseason ranking for the Power Four. And we asked Adam about this. From your perspective, is this one of the most in-depth things that you've ever done?
I think that is correct. Comprehensive is exactly the right word for it. It was a whole lot of work and all that, and a lot of fun to put together. And kind of, I would say it's among many really fun things about the place I work is the power that, when we put a few heads together and our Rolodexes together, that we can produce something like this. But yeah, I don't know that I've ever had a longer piece that I've been a part of. I think it came out somewhere around 30,000 words.
So how did you divide it up? Just kind of some back story to this. Kind of how do you begin the plunge into trying to break down so many teams?
Yeah, and you're talking 65 schools and all that, and some of it being dividing up either based on coverage areas or schools we've got relationships with and things like that. But you kind of just divvy them up. It's not quite like a draft where we sit around, but it's also not so far from that. We just split them up and then you dive in, and it's a lot of research. And I think part of what makes a story like this so interesting, hopefully for people to read, is that so much happens in the off season to where a guide like this that tells you kind of what everybody's off season looks like is pretty valuable. Also makes the work of it a challenge because you are double and triple checking every transfer and coaching move and all those things. And sometimes you have it on your head that a guy transferred to one school in December and he was back in the portal in the spring, and you got to double check all that. So a lot of, checking goes into something like this.
Yeah, there can be just like a random transfer at any time too. Like after you publish the article, right? Like last night, there's been like some wide receiver goes somewhere, and that that throws into the mix. But yeah, it's an incredible deep dive, and I would imagine, Eli, probably 2 times as long as it would have been pre-transfer portal era, pre-NIL era as well.
That is correct. That has changed everything. But again, it's part of what makes covering this part of college football such a moving target and so fascinating now, and maybe what necessitates a piece like the one we wrote.
So, Eli, we'll start. I'll start asking you about the ACC, and Clemson, kind of the obvious number one given all they've done, and I will call it Dabo Swinney's experimenting with the transfer portal, bringing in some guys which he had never done before. They are not to the talent level that they were at their peak. Are they close, though?
To say at their peak might be that's such a high bar that they set at the time, and in the ways that we've probably all watched or maybe even just presumed that Clemson has fallen off from there. And again, it may be hard for them to ever get back there, but the ways in which, that program has remained resistant to NIL and some of the changes we've seen and using the transfer portal, that has certainly held them back in recent years on the field. But I think we're now seeing as good a roster as they've had since that era. And it's what made this offseason so fascinating with them was that, they'd had a couple losses, but so much of that team was so young that they were going into the offseason, I think, really feeling like they had to retain their guys because really easy to get picked off when you have young talent on your roster, but then really only needing to fill a few holes. And they did that. Their rare portal moves were ones that were very much focused, very specific. They didn't go crazy at filling the holes they had from a team that made the playoff last year and comes back now with, a quarterback who's experienced and made big strides last year, year two with an offensive coordinator, a really supremely talented wide receiver group. And so they sort of were very picky and selective in how they did things, which I think, it's always been the case of how they've operated in their off seasons and their roster management. But I think, this is probably as good as it's been at any point since those, peak Clemson teams. And they did in selective ways get better through the portal this year.
Eli, FSU, Paul's a proud alum, so I don't know if he was going to ask you about them or not. So I will go ahead and ask. They've got to be better than last year. I think that's very much clear. But how much better can they be? Can they be more of what they were 2 years ago as opposed to closer to what they were a year ago? And why the optimism is so?
Yeah, I mean, for one, it is, that can they be as bad as a year ago or have they cleared out just a lot of what didn't go right last year? They've done that. And so I think that is pretty critical for, where Florida State goes from here, but and they probably backed off a little bit on the portal. They still use it plenty, but I think last year's team was a shining example of what can go wrong when you go too heavily into the portal. So they were in a different way from Clemson, selective. They went out, they got their quarterback Thomas Castellanos. They made some good additions. They didn't lose too many guys who you would have looked at from last year's roster and said, well, they need to keep him if they're going to turn it around. But I think comparing last year and the year before that, they'll probably fall somewhere in between. I think it'd be hard for them to struggle as much as they did. I think for them, perhaps the two biggest offseason additions came on the coaching staff. I think Gus Malzahn really gives them an identity and something to move forward with. And for better or worse, we'll find out, takes the play calling out of Mike Norvell's hands. And then Tony White, I think, is going to make a huge difference for them. And they may be, on above any single player, the two biggest additions they made. So they're going to be better. Or maybe we can go back to this conversation in October and somehow that'll be an incorrect statement, but I think it's going to take a lot in terms of going right of the guys they did add for them to really get back to where they were 2 years ago.
I'll just say I have no expectations. That's just I can't give it because I have no idea, Eli, about that, and I read every single thing that's written about them. We are right here in the heart of Big 12 country. I know you covered that as well for a long time. That is the league that is probably hardest to peg overall, but you guys all collectively really like what Texas Tech has done. I know that Joey McGuire has tried to tamp down the hype machine because they've kind of gotten out over their skis for a couple years and started slow. But if they do not at least get to the last couple of weeks in contention for the title game, is that a massive disappointment?
That's a good question. I would assume with the nice NIL bill they've got to construct this roster, it would feel that way. But I think too, you can win the off season. It doesn't matter the sport, but you can win the off season, and that buys you nothing when you kick off in week one. And Florida State a year ago being an example, you can really hit the portal. And that doesn't buy you anything. I think they've done a tremendous job, and they've certainly bet on a lot of really good talent. They've spent heavily. I don't think anybody had an off season like them, both probably in terms of money spent, but also talent acquired. But we're going to find out. I don't think that it's a guarantee that all that they've done really gets them anything more than probably into upper crust Big 12 contention, and that may well be what carries them into the postseason and onward from there. But I think last year probably showed us with the 12-team playoff that anybody, and maybe not anybody we're looking at right now, can get into that playoff or contend. And the Big 12 being as wide open as it is, I think that opens the door to everybody. And certainly in places you can do it, incentivizes the kind of spending you've seen because everybody is trying to get into that 12-team playoff. And if you can do it and you've got the resources to get there, you can give yourself a really good shot of getting places that, Texas Tech had not been around in the 14 playoff era. So the door is open, and I think that's incentivized a lot of programs to really go for it. But, again, you can talk about an NBA offseason, NFL offseasons, or college football offseasons. Those who win, in the off months don't always find that kind of success when the fall rolls around.
How tough of a choice or I don't know if tough choice, but how much of a conversation was there about Texas Tech being number one as opposed to, I know the difference is probably negligible at best, but as opposed to an Arizona State, one coming off of what they did a year ago and another coming off of obviously a tremendous offseason?
Yeah, I think that, and we certainly kicked around kind of like, what do you value? Do you value a team, for instance, like a Clemson that the best part of its offseason was not losing anybody and filling their little holes? Same for Penn State. I mean, they went big in some places between Jim Knowles and Trevor Pena and holding on to Drew Aller. But what do you value? A team that went out and did a bunch, or a team that just really had a successful offseason by virtue of not a whole lot happening and filling the spots they needed? But I think you look at Texas Tech and whether it's the way they've improved their roster, or really, a down hasn't been played yet, but certainly boosted their brand and their standing across the sport. And we're talking about them in ways we would not have been talking about them before. I think that does make them all-season winners. But again, when we get to the late months of the regular season next year, it's going to be a question of, is all that going to buy them the wins they need to really be what they want to be?
Is there a team that you felt had a very busy offseason but was more chaotic and maybe not it's going to be tough for them to really see that pay off this year?
Yeah, I mean, maybe slightly off of that question, but who had maybe the worst off season? You could look at a lot of programs that simply just got cleaned out. But in the upper crust, I think you look at Tennessee, and obviously, and I'm sure you guys spent a lot of time talking about Nico Eamaleava and all that went down there. There is going to be, a sense that not only did they lose their quarterback at the worst time, because I think if that had all transpired in December, they would have been able to probably rustle somebody from another program, a proven quarterback at a certain level. That just wasn't going to happen at the end of the spring. They found that out, and Joey Aguilar is a pretty good recovery, but probably not the quarterback Tennessee expected to be going into the year with. And then I think even beyond that, whether it was losses or maybe just the lack of aggression or ability to be aggressive in the portal, I think Tennessee fans, I know were disappointed by that. And when you couple that with losing Nico at the end there, I don't know how many programs, if you look at who was in that playoff field a year ago, really had a worse off season, even if it wasn't totally chaotic. And if you can qualify anything other than what kind of went down there at the spring as something not chaotic. There wasn't a lot of drama except for at the end, but I really think Tennessee sort of took a step back in terms of its talent base.
Ohio State had to replace both coordinators. The talent in the room is not in question, even though they lost a ton of guys from the national championship team. But Ryan Day has shown an ability to reload. Is that their biggest thing, especially when it comes to Matt Patricia, who has not coached a college game in 22 years?
Yeah, I mean, there's what ifs there. I mean, whether it's with Matt Patricia replacing Jim Knowles, who I think over the last 5 years, you'd be hard pressed to find a better defensive coordinator in the country than him. Losing your quarterback and turning it over to what presumably it's going to be Julian Sand, a really talented newcomer, but a newcomer. And I think you're going to see some of that there, that they're going to have to adjust and prove it in some places. But I do think they're another program that where they added, they were really pleased with kind of the holes they filled and like the guys that they have coming up through the program who maybe weren't, their impact stars a year ago, but are stepping into those roles. I think that's another program that had a good offseason in terms of, one, you hold on to Jeremiah Smith, two, you replace the talent you lost with guys you feel really good about, and three, just going into the season where you've got guys within your program coming through. I mean, that is that development model. It's not as though Ohio State isn't spending a lot on its roster, but even so, the programs that are spending big still need to succeed in recruiting from the high school ranks and developing talent. And I think they feel pretty good there, but there are what ifs. I mean, Matt Patricia certainly is a what if on that front. And you've got one at quarterback and some other spots. So it's going to be interesting, but I think they have every reason to feel good, even if it wasn't an especially flashy offseason.
Okay. Craig asked you about my favorite team. I'll ask you about his, Oklahoma. They've done a lot in rebuilding that roster, and they've retained some good players from last year as well. Bringing in Ben Arbuckle. Could we see a high-flying Sooners offense again?
I think that's certainly the plan, and they've certainly brought in at the high levels that type of personnel. I mean, they clearly had to make a change at offensive coordinator, and Ben Arbuckle, looking at somebody who's probably one of the rising stars over the last few years, and a young guy at 29 fits that mold. John Mateer, hard to have found a better portal quarterback than him, and Jaden Ott the same at the running back position. They have the makings of it. I think what we still need to see, from a year ago, what crushed them were injuries on the offensive line and at the wide receiver positions. And I think those are spots that no matter how much talent you've got up in the play booth or at the quarterback spot, if you can't kind of deliver at those two spots, whether it's health or production, no offense is going to take off. And I think that is a place they feel pretty good about it in Norman, but where I'd have just some concern of, did they do enough on the offensive line? Did they do enough to replenish that wide receiver room to put the talent around all those other talented guys to have it take off? But, almost like Florida State, it's hard to imagine it could be worse for Oklahoma on offense in 2025. And I do think they're absolutely in the right direction. They'll have that defense that, is going to be sturdy. And we're going to find out if they did do enough, or if just kind of cleaning that slate and setting up a little bit of a new culture within that offense is going to be enough to turn it around.
Eli Letterman, ESPN.com. Eli, I hope you get a nice, at least week to not have to write something so long. You can just write a short little, a blurb maybe after this, because this was, I consider myself a pretty fast reader, and it took me a long time. And I've read it twice through because of all the information that you have in it. And I've saved it because when I start the season, it's going to be the best thing to go to and, try to figure out, all this information about these teams when we actually get to kicking off the game. So a great work on this, all of you guys on it. And thanks for helping on the show.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Eli Letterman, ESPN.com. When we come back, Smokey will join us, and Rob Bolton, PGA.com, and we will do our draft. And you'll get to see resplendent Thunder fan Emery Winter will take Craig's seat while Craig switches over and changes the screensaver on Emery's computer to something that will bother him. That is coming up next here on 365 Sports.
Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. General Manager, CEO Ted Teague, David Gray, General Car Sales Manager, and DJ Latimer, the new car sales manager. Right now, pre-owned vehicles starting at $11,000. Back in May of 2020, that's where I bought my Ford Explorer. Paid off, and it runs really well. Had a couple of bumps and bruises, but that's going to happen. So come one, come all. Good credit, no credit, or bad credit. Several financing institutions available. Over 400 vehicles available at Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Ready right now to get you in the car of your dreams today. Selling cars like candy bars. No matter what your flavor is, they have what is right for you. I'm sure you've heard about the awesome 702 horsepower supercharged Ram TRX. What you may not know is that Alan Samuels has a rare pre-owned one in inventory right now, and it's priced to move. Come check out this awesome piece of American muscle. Are you a luxury import buyer? Lexus maybe? 2023 Lexus GX 460 Premium, only 28,000 miles on it, and this vehicle is in great condition. Third row, sunroof, navigation. Yes, they have new car sales with Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, but also a tremendous inventory pre-owned vehicles at Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Paul Catalina alone on set as far as main co-hosts go. David Smoak is at the Academic All-Stars just down the road at McLean Stadium at the Baylor Club. Emery Winter is right next to me, and Rob Bolton joins us on the phone. And so, Rob, I'll start with you before we bring Smokey in. Quail Hollow, it's weird to me to hear people talk about it because so many golfers have done well there, but it doesn't sound to me like they're all that enthusiastic about playing there. Am I wrong to read that? Because, like, some of them say it's nice, but it's not my favorite. Like, what do you think about the way that they've kind of reacted to the course?
Hey, buddy. First of all, congrats on finally taking the reins away from Smokey on the show. I know you've been wanting that for a long time.
It's been a power struggle.
Hi, David. I know you can hear me. Yeah, you're right. That's a strong takeaway. I think they're just not enamored with the place, right? They want to be, they want to be courted. Come on, come get me. And this place is like, all right, I'll come to you. I'll hit driver everywhere and see what happens. And, eventually the competitive juices will start flowing again. They don't get to pick the place, but they do choose to play. So once you're in, and then they're asked questions, and fortunately we're getting this honest answer. It's just sort of entertaining right now. They'll figure out some ways to make it interesting. I always put faith in the setup crews, especially for the majors. They can be analyzed and criticized until, from sun up to sundown. But it's normally the criticism in advance, and then the competition takes over. So I'm not really putting a lot of stock in it. It's just what we talk about when the focus is as strong as it is pre-tournament.
Smokey, I'll bring you in here. You have the first pick. Yeah, look, there you are. How How do you feel? Like, your thoughts on Quail Hollow and anything you want to ask Rob before we get started in the draft?
Well, it's one of the things I was going to bring up is that it's a bomber's course. And, sometimes you see that and sometimes like the U.S. Open is surely not that, but the bombers still try to bomb it. It's the fact that it's a PGA Tour venue that we've seen. Rob, is 18, just to make sure I know the right one, but I've watched a little bit of the PGA channel, but is that the one on 18 that has that beautiful, enticing but dangerous creek running all the way down the left side of the fairway that you have to be careful of, and the green is way back top left?
Yeah, you got it. That's exactly where we are this week.
That's a beautiful course, but yeah, I don't. It looks like this is a bomber's course. I don't know about the guys that are more precision like, but I've watched this many times. I know that a lot of guys in the field have won there, including, of course, Rory has dominated there. Nick Taylor's won there. Justin Thomas has won there. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. And I'll tell you what I do think, Rob. I don't know if it was the last 5 to 7 or 8 to 10 years, but there was a time when the PGA Championship seemed to slip from being at the elite level of the Masters, the Open, and then even, of course, the U.S. Open. What did they do? It seems like their field now is better than all the other ones.
Yeah, that's it always has been fourth in terms of compelling and, sex appeal. But it does have the strongest, deepest field of all the majors. It's the only major with only professionals, and granted, 20 of them are PGA professionals from around the country. So they're catering to the historical element there. But the top of the field, there's only one golfer not in the field inside the top 100 of the world golf ranking, and that's Billy Horschel, who's having surgery this week. Otherwise, he'd have been there. And yes, your point about it being a bomber's course. Here's my counterpoint. Who isn't a bomber these days, though? Right?
That's true. Yeah.
The narrative has been there's no creativity on this course. So everybody's going to be hitting driver. Does it become a second shot course? Because I tend to be an optimist by nature because life is too short, guys. It's not a second shot course. You still have to be able to play from the fairway on this place because of its length. So yes, most of these guys hit it really long. How much difference is there between 320 and 305? Well, you ask these guys quite a bit. But with where the tees are going to be, with where the hole locations are going to be, it should be, I put air quotes up, relatively fair for all. But if you're just going to eliminate the guys who don't hit it very long, you're not going to eliminate a lot of guys, as it were. So I tend to think that particular narrative gets blown out of proportion a little bit, given the talent of the guys who hit it really long. And then at that point, yes, we'll see what they do with the irons. That's going to be super important, especially the long irons this week. And not all the guys who hit it long hit their long irons really well. And so we'll see more of a division of the leaderboard at that point because the division of talent already exists in advance. It's just that it's harder to see with the eye when the guys are hitting, let's say, 4-iron instead of drivers when we're trying to watch the television. We don't have all of that. Everybody's hitting from the same spot on the tee. They're not all from the same spot from the fairway or from lies off the fairway. So it's a bit of a mind, but it messes with your mind a little bit. You're trying to digest a tournament like this and then all of the rhetoric in advance of what it really is. But there's going to be some compelling elements to this. So I'm willing to let it play out to see what those are going to be.
And one of the other things, and I know, Paul, you got to get to the draft, but is the fact they moved it up to May. That's a big deal because it sometimes got lost in the shuffle towards the end in August. Yeah.
No doubt about it. And especially at Quail Hollow, where it was last held in 2017, Justin Thomas won at only 8 under par on what was a par 71 at the first time it played. I'm sorry, a par 72 at the time, now par 71. And as I'm thinking about that a lot, I might have that backward, but that was when the Bermuda grass was in full bloom on the greens. This week it's overseeded with POA. So the Bermuda will be emerging in spots. The greens might play a little bit differently. There's a whole nuance to the fact that they have a sub-air system. The place is wet this week. How are the greens going to be receptive? They better be receptive at least early so the guys are going to get perturbed. So scoring should be really nice on Thursday, and then it should get more difficult on the weekend.
All right, let's get to it. Smokey, You and you can thank Garrett for this. I did a different method. I just asked different people what number I was thinking of. Garrett nailed it right, and that you were. I didn't tell them who they were picking for, so Garrett nailed it right. He was picking for you, so you have the first pick because
Rory.
he picked the number right.
Rory.
No, didn't have to think about it. Rob.
Yeah, give him another second. I think he kind of rushed into that. Well, McElroy topped my power rankings for all the reasons. I'm going to have to, just like Emery at the Master Draft. I guess I'll take Scotty Scheffler.
Yes.
All right, Emery.
I'm going to take Bryson.
Bryson. I was actually. I don't think I've ever taken him, Rob, because I'm a Koepka guy. So Emery, but right. I was going to do it now, and now Emery's stolen my thunder. But I'll take Xander Schauffele. He's done well at Quail Hollow in the past, and then I will follow that up with Justin Thomas, who won at Quail Hollow in 2017.
And then I'm going to go with Aubert.
Okay. All right. Rob.
Yeah. So now that the top four of my power rankings are gone, Schauffele, who's the defending champion and playing better now, is a great pick there, Paul. He would have been great in the top three, but to get him at 4 right now, I don't think we drafted him. Maybe I picked him in the last round for the Masters, but he wasn't in my power rankings. He's 6th this week. He's deserving of that. Now we get into the portion of the program where we want to make the cut because all the big hitters that should contend for the title are gone. I'm just going to lean into my power rankings to go with Shane Lowry at number 5. He's my choice for this draft.
All right, Smokey 2 coming to you.
Well, that just took one off my plate because Rob's an evil person. He wins it every time anyway, but I appreciate him doing that. I'm going to take I'll take Morikawa.
Okay. All right. Who?
And oh yes, and Matsuyama.
Oh, all right. A theme building for Smokey right here. Rob, who you got?
M. So Patrick Reed is next to my power rankings for the record, but the fact that he's still on the board and looking to prove himself once and for all, I do love this. I love that element. It's unquantifiable. It's an intangible, and he needs to get back onto the world stage in a big way. This is a course that can allow him to do that, even though he hasn't played well at Quail Hollow before. I'm going to go ahead and consider that a small sample size. Give me the big Spaniard, John Rahm.
All right, Emery.
He just took mine. I think I'm going to have to go with I'll go with Tommy Fleetwood.
Gosh, I love Tommy Fleetwood. He's one of my favorite guys to pick, as you know, Rob probably remembers. All right, so I've got 2 more, and then
I already had you penciled in for him.
Yeah, I know. I love Tommy Fleetwood. I'll take Sepp Straka and Tyrrell Hatton is a never draft for me. All he does is hurt my feelings. And Patrick Cantlay. All right, Emery, who you got?
I'm going to go with Corey Connors.
Okay, and Rob, last pick.
Yeah, just for the record, I want to let the audience know that Austin Eckroat actually is in the field, Emery. Yeah, you're passing on him again for a major.
Every time I pick him, he doesn't seem to do very well, so I'm trying to reverse the juju on him.
By the way, Paul, I'm not watching. I apologize. I'm on the phone here. But when you mentioned Tyrrell Hatton, did the lights in the studio flicker? I would imagine.
I think they did. I mean, he's been an absolute. I mean, for all of us. And granted, look, the Masters was not a great thing for anybody but you, Rob. We didn't even bring that up.
Go on.
Look, Emery, Smokey, and I were out middle of day 1. Like we weren't, but we were. Like, middle of day one, already one of our golfers each had just, and they might as well just like gotten a scuba suit and lived in the water. It was everybody was dying there. So your fourth pick.
Yeah, and McIlroy ended up winning it anyway with 4 double bogeys.
Yeah.
By the way, I had to look up Hatton because it's been 5 years since he burned all of us. He's made 5 straight cuts in the Masters, 4 straight in the PGA, 3 straight in the U.S. Open. He hasn't been terrible. He actually can be a contributor. He is in my power rankings, but he's not next. I'm actually shocked that Patrick Reed is still sitting there for me, so I'm going to take him in the last round.
All right, Patrick Reed. Smokey, your last pick.
Nick Taylor won here before at Quail Hollow. He's playing pretty well, but I just can't pull the trigger on that. I always have just a dumb pick, and I want to go with Koepka, but I mean, Paul, do you remember him, by the way?
Yeah, I do, and he's won this event a few times. So I mean, he likes it. This is kind of his one, but I don't know where his head's at.
Well, and then Spieth is just a double bogey waiting to happen. I would love to take him. Reed was going to be my pick. I'm going to go with Neiman. Playing really well overseas. I'm not a big live guy at all, but heck, I'm going to go with Joaquin Neiman.
All right, Rob, who is scaring you the most?
That's a good question. I'm shocked David didn't pick Mickelson. It would have rounded out the 4 M's that he was shooting for there, but he went an N. Pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Neiman needs to show a lot like Koepka lately. He hasn't a top 25 in a major in last 6 starts. 3-time winner of this particular tournament. Yeah, I agree with you. And we're talking about Brooks here, not Chase. Neiman, same thing. Not a factor in a major yet. He'll have his moments. He's still only 26. He'll get there. But we don't need to go deep. If we were going maybe 6 rounds, 8 rounds, then he becomes pretty sneaky there. Paul, I mean, look, your team. I like Emery has some eclectic choices there, given what was in front of him at the time. DeChambeau makes all the sense, but I don't even have Oberg in my power rankings, and Fleetwood is just nice complementary material, really safe, and Connor's a bit of the same. So you could see if Oberg can find some consistency that he's been lacking of late, Emery ends up being the danger to all of us, no matter how the rest of us play. If we have the winner or we podium, he has probably the strongest or the highest floor, I would say. Maybe the fewest question marks, Oberg being really the only one. And obviously his confidence level is high in Oberg, so I credit him for that. Paul, I think Straka, I'm a big fan of the guy. He was the top of my Paul ranks at the Players Championship. Surprised a lot of people. I mentioned it during the Players or during the Masters with you guys. Surprised a lot of people that he was there. Coming off the victory, perfect fit for this course. Very comfortable in his own skin. Won before, just won on a big tournament. So he could be the guy that could surprise everybody this week, but he wouldn't surprise me. And then you have nice compliment material there with Cantley at the end. When does he disappoint anybody? So, yeah, I think overall, as usual, we have a lot of differences, right? But I said the same thing at the Masters, and you already explained how all that transpired. So, I'm careful. I mean, I'm obviously very confident in my own squad, but maybe it's this week where I go like 1 for 4. We'll find out.
Look, you haven't. Was it last year's U.S. Open where we all missed the cut?
It was the Open Championship.
Open Championship, yeah. The Open Championship, none of us won. It was a disaster.
If he didn't talk to me all winter.
Yeah. Smokey, final thoughts.
Well, I didn't like the way he was talking about Neiman at all. That's going to keep me up tonight. I'm kind of pissed because he took Patrick Reed, the grinder. He's got a bunch. You got grinders: Scheffler, Lowry, Rahm, and Reed. I got some stars in Rory Morikawa and Matsuyama, but I always seem to panic on that 4th one. I don't know why. I think it's intimidation from Rob's dominance. And Emery coming back from an Oklahoma City Thunder game when they have regained the lead in the series. I'm out of whack here. I'm not throwing in the towel, but I don't know now. I'm a little bit nervous about this weekend.
This is the first time I've ever heard you with any shaken confidence, Smokey. I tell you what, the thing about Neiman is he's atop the points list for Liv, and he's an incredible player, and he's won many times all over the place, but he just hasn't cracked through in a big one. It's gonna happen at some point. And so this may be the week where in a month when we get together, hopefully for the U.S. Open, you're going to be saying, "I told you so." And I wish that for you, but for a second place finish. That's what I wish.
Thank you very much. Behind you, I'll take a second place because last few tournaments have been rough. Rob, it's always great to hear from you, buddy.
Likewise, guys. Thanks again.
All right, and we'll talk to Rob before the U.S. Open. Smokey, are you at McLean Stadium or are you at your house?
Yeah, I'm in a suite. I'm in a suite that overlooks the field and got everything set up. Got a couple of little knickknacks to put up out for the kids, the All-Stars, and then put my suit on and I'll be ready to go. I'm excited. It seemed like that this one's gone as smooth as any of them. So we'll honor those student athletes here in about, an hour and 15 or 20 minutes. Can't wait. I'll see you when you get here.
All right. See you in a little bit, Smokey. There is David Smoak at the Academic All-Stars. When we come back, the top 5. Emery, you did a wonderful job. You're not, I know you don't want to be on air. I've asked you several times. You don't. You do a wonderful job when you are on.
Thank you for the 5 words that I speak. I really appreciate that coming from you.
Yeah. Do the Thunder clinch the series next?
I think
going back to Denver?
I think so. I mean, just from the looks of it, Jokic looked a little tired. I think this previous series with the Clippers kind of got to him. So I think Thunder in 6.
I do rep him a little. He's the exact opposite of Chet Holmgren.
Oh yeah,
like the exact opposite.
It's funny when they go up against each other. I mean, Jokic he bodies the hell out of him.
Yeah. Look, Chet's way taller than me, but I could body Chet.
Yeah.
He's the coat rack. I'm going to get that name to stick. Next up, the top 5. And it's NBA draft and transfer portal related. That's coming up. This is 365 Sports.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. That and many other deals on our new website, 365sportsdeals.com. You can find all the things that we advertise here on the show there for your consumerism. Please check out our sponsors, especially Flag and Anthem, 20% off your first order with promo code 365sports. Today, top 5 intriguing NBA draft decisions. Now, this is not necessarily an NBA segment, so those of you who are automatically turning this off, don't do that. This is a college basketball segment. These are the guys who are working out at the NBA Draft Combine that will have decisions to make to come back. Most of them are currently in the transfer portal as well, and once they make their decision, they'll either stay in the draft or find a new school. One of them, though, and the one who's most likely to be drafted, and he'll be at number 1, has already made his school decision, and it's going to be very, very interesting. Number 5, PJ Haggerty, late of Memphis, now in the transfer portal. Also was at Kansas State before. He's been several places in his career. Just had a career year. He is at the NBA Draft Combine. Did okay in the 5-on-5s from what I read yesterday, but not projected by any expert right now to go into the draft this year, which means he'll be cashing in somewhere. The likely spot right now is NC State with Will Wade, but NC State and anybody else who is in on the PJ Haggerty sweepstakes, holding their breath, waiting to see if he will come there after a 23.8 game scoring total last season. Number 4, Jameer Watkins from Florida State. He's a 5th-year guy, but has eligibility. Could come back. He is also in the transfer portal. He did the same thing last year. Most people project him as a surefire second-round pick and someone who'll sign a 2-way contract. But could he get more money this year in college basketball? Yes, probably, than he's going to make on a 2-year contract, especially for a good team looking to rebuild its roster. As we've seen, many good teams, Baylor, Kansas, name them, almost completely cleared out roster top to bottom. So there will be opportunities for him to come back if he does. Again, he did this last year, went through the NBA Draft Combine. Maybe he's like Quinn Ewers and doesn't really worry about the draft position. He's just given all he can to college basketball, but we'll see. Not a first-round pick, but a surefire second-round pick. Is that what you want on a 2-way contract, or do you want to go cash in somewhere outside Tallahassee? Number 3, RJ Lewis. St. John's, famously benched in the NCAA tournament. He is in the transfer portal, not getting any NBA draft buzz, but we will see how he does at that combine, and then he will be back in, one of the highly recruited players that St. John's brought in last year. But now, because he got cross with Rick Pitino, he is in the portal and potentially going to the NBA draft. His decision will be interesting to see and where he winds up. Darian Williams from Texas Tech is in the transfer portal. Just saw JT Toppin get $4 million a year to stay at Texas Tech. Now, he's going to command similar kind of money, but he's not going to be back at Tech. They've already replaced him on the roster. So after the NBA Draft Combine, I fully expect that he's going to come and go to a place like Kansas or Missouri or Alabama, somewhere that has big money to give him, and he'll wind up there. Probably not staying in, but positive reports about his skill at the combine, but nobody has him going in the first round, which means go get your $3+ million there, son, and enjoy it. Sorry to Texas Tech fans who won't get to enjoy him, but I don't think you're going to miss him that much because, like I said, you've already replaced him on the roster, and based on your reactions when we reported that story, you're fine with this. You're fine with it. And number 1, Yaxel Lindeborg. He was at UAB. He is committed to Michigan, has a sizable NIL deal, and 60-40 right now when he was interviewed yesterday, maybe 50-50 about going back to Michigan. He is projected by many in the last few picks of the first round, from anywhere from 21 all the way to the end at 30, but maybe a first-round pick. If he can sneak in there, if that's what they tell him after the combine, what do? Do you go back or do you go into the NBA? Even though it's still a bit of a crapshoot towards those last 10, 11, 12 picks sometimes are just razor thin between first-round money and second-round money. So what do? Do you go back to Michigan for another year and improve your stock and play for Dusty May on a team that has a ton of potential? Or do you dive into the NBA draft and hope all is well? We'll see with Yaxel Lindeborg from Michigan. Well, maybe not from Michigan, but from UAB right now. As a matter of fact, if he doesn't go to Michigan, I don't think Adam Silver can say with the 28th pick, Yaxel Lindeborg, Michigan. But we'll see. That'll be an interesting transfer portal era draft announcement. But also, by the way, the team I see him mock to the most by the experts is the Oklahoma City Thunder. So Emery's just now started doing all the research he can on a center from UAB. That's it. He stopped working. I'm looking at him right now. He's stopped working. He's looking at his picture. He's sizing him up. He's wondering why he didn't watch that much UAB basketball this year. He feels ashamed of himself. As well he should. What kind of good Thunder fan wouldn't know a guy they could potentially pick with the 29th pick in the draft? He was at the game last night. He doesn't know. I'm sure they made fun of him all the way through the Paycom Center. That's going to do it for us. I've got some polls to give you, and that will be the end of the show once I do. Thanks, me. So there you go. Andrew Villade tirelessly works throughout the show on our social media and polls, and we are all over the place. We're on every platform, I think. I don't think we're on Blue Sky yet, but do we really need to be? But we're on TikTok and Twitter and
the gram.
Facebook, and the gram and Instagram. So, should the Mavs trade the number one pick for Giannis? They're not going to, but it's interesting to see people vote on this. No build-around flag was number one at 49%. Yes, go all in, 31%. That's a little surprising to me, Craig, given I think that would not really be the best thing for them. Neither keep the pick at 12%, and only if Giannis commits long-term, which would kind of have to be the deal.
Yeah, I think I would go with build around flag. I think that's the smart thing to do. I think that's what they will do, and I think that the Giannis thing was thrown out there by guys like Jason Williams. I just think they have no read on the Mavericks fan base whatsoever. I think anybody talking about trading for Giannis has no read on what Mavs fans actually want. They don't want some rent a superstar. Just like Nico's dumbass didn't understand that it wasn't about just, hey, go get a championship at all costs and however you got to do that. Sure, people want to win titles, but there was something about wanting to win a title with Luka. That's out the window now. I think they'd rather see them build around Flag and Flag be a Dallas guy than go get another rent-a-player and try to do this thing like it's the era of the super team still. Oh, we got Kyrie and we got Giannis and we got already forgetting his name, Anthony Davis. And it's like, I don't even know how that would work anyways together. And I don't know how that would even be possible. Like, what are you trading?
They also have to make a decision. Kyrie has a player option this year in his contract.
What assets do they have to even do that? Like, I don't think that's all that realistic, but it's a fun thing to fantasy book. But yeah, the build around Flag, that's the easy answer. That's what they should do, and I think that's what they will do.
Yeah. All right, next up, will you subscribe to ESPN's new direct-to-consumer streaming service? Number one, no, sticking with cable at 55%. Number two, not sure yet, 23%. Number three, maybe depends on the content at 15%. And yes, all in on ESPN at 7%. I'm not surprised to see number one so low. So low, like 7%, or they're like, yes, that people would be like
number one in the order it's listed.
Number one in the order it's listed. Sorry, number one. But yeah, no, sticking with cable seems to me now everybody's kind of veering back there. Also because cable services has started to bundle streamers too, so it's probably easier for people to even figure out, I guess. But
yeah, the death of cable was grossly exaggerated, at least the way it was portrayed even a couple of years ago, of like it wouldn't even be around at this point, or only people 65 and up would have cable. But I am somebody who's not at that threshold yet, although it feels like it's definitely closer than not. But I'm with cable, and I'm not tempted at all to go away from it, even if it wasn't something that was built into my deal. I think I would still go that route. It's just simpler. It's easier rather than having like 7 subscriptions. I just have what I have, and I don't have to worry about like, does ESPN have the live feed to the all that jazz? I have no interest in this ESPN direct-to-consumer because I don't watch enough SportsCenter or things like that for it to matter. And I can just get what they have on their main channels on cable already. So, I mean, like that thing alone's like half my cable bill. I mean, it's like it's already half just for that alone. So then to me, it's going to depend. Like the only way I would get it is that something that I have to see is on it, and I don't know that that's necessarily going to be. It's on cable. Yeah, it's already there. And it's for. I get there's a lot of wasted channels. I probably watch like a handful of channels at maximum, but I don't know. I need to see more about this because I have no desire at this point to go the direct-to-consumer with ESPN. So I'm in that 55% no, sticking with cable. It's just simpler and I think cheaper at this point because I don't know what my cable bill has been. And maybe half is being a little generous, but it's not that much different, honestly. It's not like I'm paying $150 for cable every month. I know some people probably do, but I'm not. So yeah, that's just simpler for me. So I'm in that 55 group for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm not changing anything until the point of like all FSU games will only be on this service. And I'm like, well,
I have no idea
what,
I have no idea what mania. I mean,
like what
I kind of understand it, but then again, I don't. Like you don't want to pay for Lifetime Channel and all of that, but you want to be able to get SportsCenter live on the ESPN app. Then this is for you.
Yeah.
But if you don't care about all that extra excess and all of that and not having it super dialed down, then yeah, it's probably not for you. So
yeah, I don't know. What am I getting? Like, what is but if it is better or whatever, here's the other thing they need to do. Like, I know that they felt they need to do this, the DTC direct to consumer thing. They need to make the stuff that I get on ESPN Plus and the games that I get better. Like they have to, do something to make those games better broadcast teams, they discovered this technology in COVID where, hey, we don't have to put people on a plane. We'll just have them sit in their basement and do the game on this technology we send them. Don't do that. Send them there. Only have them do that in emergency situations. Don't have them do it any other way other than being there because it clearly takes away from the game experience. And look, if you're going to rely on mostly student broadcasters to do some of these things, at least send a couple people there that know what they're doing to help these kids out.
Yeah, there's been some broadcasts that have not been very up to snuff, and especially when you're paying for a subscription. So you'd like to see them reinvest that a little bit better. I guess the bundle when you get Hulu and Disney is also, that's when you'd have the $36 per month with ads. But yeah, it's at least $30 just for the ESPN direct to consumer by itself. And live sports, man, that's what's keeping cable alive as much as anything. And so if you don't have cable, I mean, this will definitely be up your alley so you can see all the college football games coming up and all of that. But yeah, I'm going to not be a day one. I'm going to see how that plays out. And then maybe it's cool enough that it convinces me to do something different, but I'm not at that point right now, like a lot of other people who have cut the cord a long time ago.
No, absolutely not. All right, that's going to wrap up the show. Thank you to Andrew, Emery, and Garrett for their production. Thanks to all of our guests today. Don't forget about 365 Sports Tonight here in Waco if you are a local. 10:30 on the local CW channel. Thanks to Manny Navarro, Will Backus, Eli Letterman, and Rob Bolton. That's going to do it. We'll see you tomorrow, all three of us back in studio.